people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Matt Williams got a brilliant start from the third row of the grid.
He's gone, he's hit him, he's straight off at the chase.
A half-second lead. Oh, with the centering car in the background.
He has it. Oh, he's round on the last lap.
There's a massive, massive accident.
Next to the inside, what a move, what a move.
Good evening, everyone, all around the country and indeed the world, and welcome to round 3 of the Super Series for Automobilista Australia. It's a bit of a blast from the past. We're at a track that doesn't actually exist anymore, and forgive the picture on your screen of Albert Park. We're actually at Oran Park tonight, Nether.
Yes, we certainly are. Good evening, Stairs, and good evening, viewers. Oran Park last hosted around in 2008 for the supercars and shut in 2010, so it is a bit of a blast from the past.
Certainly is. So a couple of races around here. It's going to be interesting, isn't it?
Certainly going to be interesting. It is one of very few tracks, well, was in the world, that was a figure 8 layout. So the bridge here, as you can see, between, I think it's turns number 5 and 6. And there's a fair bit of undulation in the second part of the lap as well, which some of the guys have been struggling with too. So plenty of passing opportunities and plenty of trouble spots I can see happening in this race as well.
Absolutely right. So let's just take a little bit of a quick look at the point situation heading into round 3 of this championship, which is currently led by, beg your pardon, that's the round 1 points. So let's just fix that one up. There it is. So Brenton Hobson leading on 52 points from Brenton Foley, with Shane Chancellor having missed the second round, the winner in round 1 with a couple of wins, 30 points. And after that we've got Jamie Snow, who gave us a fantastic race last week. Dwayne Davies, Matt Williams and David Keane. Brock Harvey, Lee Sanford and Cracker rounds out the Pro AB drivers in the Lancer RSs. Followed in the Pro-Am category by Luke Joyner, who leads with Scott Nolan nipping at his heels, but Nolan dealing with technical issues tonight. We'll wait to see whether he can actually make the grid. Brendan Ross in 3rd place, and in 4th place Cam Rutley. Brian Walsh, Andrew Hall, Topher Field and Glenn Miles rounds out 5th through to 8th place. Gary Neville in 9th place. Andy Rain is the final point scorer there, with Mike Coulston and Scott Griffiths both sitting on 0 as it stands for the Pro-Am runners.
Yep, Brock Harvey also having some technical dramas as well. A couple of people having some technical gremlins, just trying to get game data and tracks sorted. So they can't make qualifying, unfortunately, but they can hopefully make the warm-up, but they'll start at the back of the pack if they manage to get in.
Exactly right. So we certainly hope that they do, but in the meantime there's 16 runners, 8 Pro AB runners and 8 Pro-Am runners, which gives me a nice little warm sense of satisfaction that it's nicely symmetrical.
Very, very nicely symmetrical. And Jamie Snow, the man at the or the head of the train that's out on the qualifying laps at the moment. Only 2 drivers currently set up in the pits, Glenn Miles and Phil Boak. The rest are all on track and coming to grips very, very quickly with this 2.6 kilometre figure 8 circuit.
Now, interestingly, because Jamie Snow didn't race in round 1 and joined the Coriot racing team for round number 2, but I was led to believe that he did actually have his own car made up for this round, but doesn't seem to have opted to use it this round. He's still in the Coriot car with the blue and yellow colours.
Well, I'm not sure if that's true. On your screen it might be, but on my screen it certainly looks like it's his livery, with the Snowballs livery, but maybe there's a little bit of mismatching going on there, but
there you go.
Way,
well, I did download the update, otherwise I'd be getting we'll try that one again. Otherwise I'd be getting mismatches, so that's a bit strange that the livery's not showing up. So anyway, we do know that he has got a new livery. Unfortunately we can't see it at this stage for some bizarre reason, so not quite sure what that is. We'll try and get to the bottom of that maybe in the break if we get a chance to.
And he was also pinged for a track violation in that flying lap as well, so didn't set a time. Shane Chancellor, the man to set the early benchmark in the Pro AB runners. He's done a minute 11.3. And who's the... Just looking down the list to see who's set the best time so far for the Pro-Am runners. It looks like it might be...
Big Dog.
Gary... is Big Dog? Yeah, Big Dog it is.
Yes, Big Dog up in third overall so far. We've still got a lot of people yet to set a time, but Big Dog, as is customary for us to refer to him as. Andrew Hall, his real name there. As you can see on his windscreen, it says Hall as he goes up the hill and over the bridge. He is currently in Pro-Am pole provisionally.
Yeah, lovely looking purple and black Rockstar Games colour scheme there. And haven't seen a great deal of him. He's been in and about some of the Super Series races. He's also dabbled a little bit in the WEC series as well, but gets to the races when he can, and actually looking quite handy at the moment, Stairs.
Certainly is. And Shane Chancellor has bung out another quick lap down into the 10s, which puts him a full second clear of Will Devonish in second place. And we got word through that Brenton Hobson thought qualifying wasn't for another half hour, and so he won't actually make it to qualifying, and will be starting from the rear of the grid, it sounds like, just like last week in the Porsches.
Well, didn't he certainly put on a show in the Porsches from the back of grid in the limited numbers field that was there for the Pukekohe round. He charged all the way to third place, and then backed it up by putting his car fairly and squarely on pole, and pretty much just drove away in the end.
Now, Will Devonish on this lap has set a fastest first sector, and has improved on his PB by 0.2 of a second, which brings him within a second of Shane Chancellor. Shane Chancellor still unbeatable in the last two sectors, but this is Will's first foray into the Lancer Cup for this particular Super Series. He was pretty competitive in the Porsche Cup last week. He had his best result for that series with a couple of podiums, but looking strong in this one as well.
Yeah, he drove very, very well at Pukekohe as well, and he is doing his best to challenge Shane Chancellor, but still got a little while to bridge that gap. Jamie Snow has finally put a respectable lap together. He's done a minute 11.7. He's not that far behind Will, actually, and just all but matched his sector 1 time.
Exactly 1 second adrift. That's quite satisfying.
Yeah, exactly 1 second adrift of the pole man. This is the sector where the undulation of the circuit starts to take place. And he's dropped he's not that far away from his own PB, but he's not gaining any time on the leader there. Oh, and really nearly drifted it through that last turn as well. You can see the elevation actually in the track as well. It is quite tricky coming up from turn 7 all the way through to the final turn, turn 12. And it looks like he got pinned for another track violation on that particular lap as well. So, and there is one curb, I think it's on the exit of turn 9, that is very, very inviting and encourages you sort of to push a little bit harder than you like. And as soon as you cross the curb, if it's a bit too quick, it's good night.
And we're starting to see traffic become a factor for some of these guys there. Dwayne Davies catching Pro-Am runners on his lap, just coming through the final corner, which was unfortunate, and he sits in 4th at the moment, but go on.
A couple of I just noticed DD out braking himself into, I think it must have been turn number 2 there, because turn 1's actually quite flat. Turn 2 is a very hard braking spot. A few people actually struggling to pull it up in qualifying at turn number 2.
Well, the order of the day seems to be technical issues, as we detailed earlier in the program, that we've got we had an issue for Scott Nolan trying to load in to the game, which appears to still be hampering his efforts. Brock Harvey was doing a game integrity check as the broadcast was starting, which means that he may struggle to make the grid tonight, and Mike Coulston as well, trying to fix a file issue from what we're hearing. So not good at all.
No, certainly not good. You usually see a few more numbers than this by this time, but a couple of technical gremlins, and hopefully we'll see a few more manage to make it in during the warm-up.
Certainly. So Will Devonish again looking very strong tonight, so we're looking forward to seeing what he can do. Jamie Snow is only a 10th off him, and we saw what a brilliant battle he gave Brenton Hobson last round.
Yeah, we've seen a few people throw down the gauntlet to Hobson in the last couple of races. We saw what happened at Sandown with Shane Chancellor and Brenton Foley giving Hobson a good run for his money as well. It's good to see that it's getting a bit tighter at the top, and still over half the season to go as well, Stairs. It's only round 3 or races in round 3.
Doesn't look like Brenton Foley has managed to string together a representative lap time yet. They're sitting in 7th, about 5 seconds off the pace, and currently the man closest to Brenton Hobson in the points, when we speak of that points, it didn't have a great race race 3 or 4 in Albert Park with a 5th and a 6th place, but he got 2 podiums to open up his account in round 1 at Sandown.
Yeah, he did. Sandown was probably one of the, I think, probably the most entertaining of all the rounds so far, hasn't it been, Stairs? It was quite, we weren't short of any action, but then again, that is a circuit that kind of delivers that sort of racing, isn't it?
Well, exactly right. I think this particular series hasn't disappointed yet, and I say that while touching wood, because Albert Park's 2 races were very good, and Sandown's 2 races were very good. Very, very, very different tracks, but proof that the Lancers always seem to have something going on. We saw the Porsches last week were perhaps a little bit spaced out during some of those races, but with the Lancers, if there's not something going on at the head of the field in Pro AB, there's most likely something happening in Pro Am as well, so there's always something to follow.
That's right, and it's always a challenge too, because this is the same thing we have with WEC. We have a quicker class and a slower class, and the slower classes always present a challenge for the quicker class by virtue of the fact they have to get past them, you know, several times during a race, but also it's hard to keep track of the on-track battles as well, because they're so far apart.
They certainly are, and again, this is a shorter track like we saw in round 1, which will mean the traffic is ever more present as a threat to some of the leading guys. It's probably a little bit less impactful on the Albert Park races, but it's going to be crucial. It may well end up being decisive as a factor in tonight's racing.
Yeah, very possibly going to become a factor.
Shane Chancellor's just shaved another 10th or so off of his fastest lap, this time with the fastest sector in Sector 1 for a 1:10.6. Brenton Foley up into 5th place. Still a ways off Dwayne Davies. He's been struggling with finding traffic at the wrong moments during his qualifying laps. Big Dog's still pole position in the Pro-Am, so Cam Rutledge 2nd and Brennan Ross in 3rd. Championship leader Luke Joyner down there in 5th place. So that'll be music to the ears of Scott Nolan, potentially.
Yeah, Scott very frantically trying to get himself organised to get back into the server, but obviously having to wait. Yeah, he's also having to wait until qualifying is over as well too, Stairs, because he won't be allowed to rejoin until qualifying has been completed for race number 1 tonight.
And that's exactly right. So regardless of what happens, he'll be starting from the back with Brenton Hobson. So if he does make the grid, there'll be 2 Synergy Sim Racing cars starting from the rear of the grid. It'll obviously be a little bit easier for Hobbo to make his way through with a car that's got significantly more horsepower than the Lancer R cars that the Pro-Am drivers run.
He'd probably give his teammate a little bit of a handy tow down the front straight as well, one would think.
Exactly right. If he can manage to get into it. Lovely shot there of Brenton Foley going underneath the bridge and finding nearly 4/10 of a second on this particular lap on his personal best, which will be... well, won't be enough actually to get him ahead of Dwayne Davies, because Dwayne Davies has just jumped in front of Jamie Snow with his previous lap. So that's actually really quite tight, with Will Devonish, Dwayne Davies and Jamie Snow all occupying times within about 1/10 of each other on the leaderboard.
Yeah, not that far away at all. Foley looking to join the party as well. Sector 2 split not that far away, although he stays wide of the apex a little bit there. He's found a half a second on his own PB, so that'd be good enough to put him into the battle, but he's got to nail this last corner here.
Yeah, a little bit wide of the apex. I don't know if he has, Nether. And right out near the wall. We'll see what kind of speed he can carry across the line. And he's lost. Yeah, he did drop time, so he's got a bit more work to do, does Brenton Foley.
He'll get 2 more bites of the cherry here. He's got time on the clock for 2 more laps if he's fueled for it, but he's not going to do it like that, going across the grass at turn 1 and straight into the tyre barrier.
Now, Big Dog looks pretty comfortable at the moment in his provisional pole position in Pro-Am. He leads Cam Rutledge by a pretty handy 0.8 of a second. That's got to feel pretty comfortable. Philip Boak has jumped up in front of his PBF race engineering teammate in Brenton Foley, up into 5th place. Yeah,
very, very good result for Boakey as well. So we know that Phil Boak and Brenton Foley, part of the PBF race engineering team, as they like to call themselves. They're right up in the thick of it yet again, having a great season in the WEC as well.
They certainly are. They're leading that Teams Championship and the Drivers' Championship, if I'm not mistaken there, with well, both drivers have led it at certain stages, I believe. Well, I can look at it at the moment, but Philip Boak was leading that championship, but now Brenton Foley as a result of Philip Boak unfortunately having to miss the WEC Series on Sunday night.
That's right, he was substituted by Jamie Snow, who's departed the series, but made a cameo appearance to keep the points ticking over for PBF in the WEC.
They did a good job, actually. They got quite a few points in the hands of Jamie Snow and Brenton Foley with his 2nd place. Of course, their closest rivals being the Loose Sim Sport GT3 car with Lewis Wedding, but Matt Webb being replaced by Steve Bolger.
That is correct. Well, clock's about to strike 0, and I think Shane Chancellor's pretty safe here, mate, because Devonish and co behind him are all sat up in the pits. I think they've had enough. They've realised that Shane's just a bit too quick for them, and Shane actually finding a little bit of, not much time, but fractions. It's actually 1/2 of 1/10 on this current lap, so seeking to lower the bar even further.
You got to wonder if anyone can challenge him.
He did, actually.
He does, yes, 10.5.
Nearly found a 10th.
As we're watching Cam Rutledge see if he can improve on his time. But I think it's a similar story for him as it is for Will Devonish. There's a pretty good result for 2nd in class for both of them, but nowhere near enough time in hand to overhaul the provisional pole sitter, which in Cam Rutledge's case for Pro-Am is Big Dog, and in Will Devonish's case is Shane Chancellor.
Yeah, great result for Big Dog, actually. I think that would be his first pole in class.
He did get one last week in Albert Park for race 1. He ended up finishing 4th in that race, so the consistency is probably something that he needs to work on, but the pace is definitely there.
No, it certainly is, and to be clear of Rutledge by over 1/2 a second as well. Very, very impressive time. And now comes the time where we'll see if we can get any more of our drivers to join in the fun and festivities for race number 1. They've got 10 minutes to sort themselves out.
Well, it sounds as though Mike Coulston, who is having issues, he believes he's fixed it. So we'll see if we see him show up in the server, and so too Brock Harvey. And Brock Harvey having issues. He's the man who made the mods, so that's a bit
bit of concern. Well, here's Hobson. Hobson is in. Well, that's that's 1.
So that brings us up to 17 cars. Yes, Scott Nolan in. 18 cars.
I did actually make a comment to the group just to say, look, the same fix that I helped you fix, Stairs, to get in. Hopefully looks like it's worked for Scott Nolan, and hopefully some of the others that might be having the issues hopefully have seen that as well. Actually, Scott's just been given another mismatch as well, so this isn't looking particularly good.
Track mismatch issue he mentioned he was having in the live chat. So that's not ideal. There is Brenton Hobson now taking to the track, as he did last week, to try and get himself a little bit of track knowledge prior to the race start. So he's got 10 minutes to familiarise himself.
Well, Brock's looks like he's sorted his troubles, so he's in as well.
Which means we've got someone crashes in the pit lane. I didn't quite see it. I heard it happen. So I'm not sure what was going on there. But here is Brenton Hobson's first laps of this track. You know Oran Park reasonably well from V8 Scops running. Have you seen something, Nether?
Yeah, I'm just seeing that Brock's also got the same issue again. It's gone again. So something is not looking very, very good. There's a few people coming and going, and it's taking a little bit of time before the system's actually picking up that they have some sort of a mismatch. So
it's incredibly frustrating, isn't it?
I can imagine.
It's not ideal when you want to see... Well, the trouble is it doesn't seem to have any consistency with when these issues show up. They don't really... You don't get a lot of warning, apart from when you try and join the server and then all of a sudden these mismatches come up.
So it's not ideal, and I'm just taking a few suggestions here to some of the guys just to see if they can try and get themselves going, and a few people having all sorts of trouble.
No worries. Well, while you do that, we might just take this opportunity for a quick break, come back on the other side and discuss our predictions for the upcoming race.
Sure.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, just waiting.
And it's lights out and away we go. It's a great start from Sebastian Vettel. We come up the inside. McLaughlin gets it to They run, but the Red Bull Racing man has got through. The champion's done the job. They're all gone. They're all gone. Tander's off. McLaughlin's off. Make room. Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. There's another 7-time champ. Jimmy Johnson wins his 7th NASCAR Sprint Cup championship.
Welcome back to round 3 action from Oran Park of the Automobilista Australia Super Series Season 2. You're currently looking at the championship leader and the defending championship, the defending champion, I beg your pardon, Brenton Hobson, who hasn't qualified, so he will be starting from the rear of the grid and seeing how many positions he can make up, while Shane Chancellor sits atop pole position. Quick mention of some interesting particulars of the Oran Park circuit is that a reverse lap around here I'm led to believe is 1 minute 53, while if you do it in 6 gear it's at 1 minute 31.225. So things that you probably won't want to know if you're one of the drivers racing tonight. We're having a few technical gremlins with some of the guys today, which Nether is kindly helping out. And that includes Scott Nolan, who's fighting for the Pro-Am Championship's been having all sorts of mismatch issues, and so too Brock Harvey, who made the mod. So very, very bizarre set of circumstances indeed, that one. So while Nether's down there in general chat fixing those sorts of issues, or at least trying to, it's just me for the next 5 or so minutes. Obviously the time is against them, and no such issues for the man on the screen there, Brenton Hobson. So he's down into the 1 minute 11s already, so he's wasting no time at all in finding his feet when it comes to pace. We saw that was very much the case at Pukekohe last week in the Porsche Cup Series. He ended up finishing 3rd from the back of the grid in that race, and then came back to set a scintillating pole position for the second race, which led to a victory. So we know that it's something that is not going to hamper him at all, but Shane Chancellor, it has to be said, has been looking pretty sublime out front with a pole position well over a second ahead of the next driver, which was Will Devonish. So Will Devonish set an 11.6, and Shane Chancellor at 10.5. So Hobson's got another second to go to find that sort of time to fight with Shane Chancellor, who so far is unbeaten in this championship, having not competed in races 3 and 4 at Albert Park. Races 3 and 4, which consisted, which made up round 2. And Shane Chancellor, incidentally, in his 2 wins in Sandown in round 1, he didn't actually set a fastest lap in either of those races. That accolade went to Hobson on both occasions, but Hobson finishing 3rd and 2nd in those 2 races, coming back to win handsomely in Albert Park last time, from pole position both times, and with the fastest lap on the way. But it wasn't all there was to it. We saw Jamie Snow put up a very, very spirited fight for the win there in race number 1, I believe that was. The pit strategy, something that he certainly used to his advantage. Nether's come back, and Nether, what can you tell us? Have we managed to solve any of these technical issues?
For a few drivers, it looks like we have. So Brock Harvey looks like he's got his act together, which is good. Scott Nolan still having a few mismatch dramas, so he's in the process of grabbing another copy of the track now on its own right. Mike Coulston actually got into the game, but could not drive out of the garage. So he's gone and tested that in a test day, and now trying to get back into the server to see if it works. That's a very bizarre error. I was wondering whether or not there's some sort of collision with the like pit box assignments or something silly that's causing that to happen. So hopefully it comes good.
Well, he certainly...
and Brenton Hobson's in and circulating. So it's about a 50-50 split in terms of who's been able to get in and behave themselves and who's not been able to get in.
Yeah, no issue for Hobson at all. Already up to the sort of pace that would have put him on the front row of the grid, although still probably around about 7/10 off the time that we saw Shane Chancellor do in his setting of pole position.
That's right. Well, considering also the fact that he's probably in a race pace sort of mode as well, Brenton Hobson. So 7/10 of a second difference between the pole time and the pace he's showing right now, I think is actually going to hold him in quite good stead for tonight's doubleheader.
Yeah, I certainly think that he'll be challenging for the win in race 2. Unless Shane Chancellor makes a mistake, though, with the pace he's showing, I fully expect him to clear off at the beginning of the race, and Brenton Hobson, with the time it'll take him to work his way through the field, probably by that stage the gap will be too big to do anything about winning the race.
That's right. Well, keeping in mind too, it is a 23-lap race. It's a short circuit, but it's 23 laps, so he's got plenty of time on his side. And given the history that this place has had with V8 supercars and such in the past, some of the I think one of the biggest crashes off the start as well happened here quite some time ago as well. So anything is possible.
Certainly is, and we just saw Hobson diving into the pits to practice his pit entry, which is a good idea, I think, because it has been, if anything, a weakness of his in some of the races has been the pit stop strategy, and certainly a good idea to practice his pits and just have that in mind, because it is a factor with these. There is a compulsory pit stop where you must change no less than 2 tyres. You can go for 4 tyres if you like, but well, we saw in Albert Park that the difference in strategy can make a huge difference in the result of the race.
No, it certainly can, and especially when you get a couple of cars parking nose to tail in the pit lane, and it becomes quite a drama. And Scott Nolan, unfortunately, still having some dramas with the track, so it looks like, unfortunately, he's not going to make the start.
That's good news to the ears of Luke Joyner, who currently leads that championship by 5 points from Scott Nolan, and also Brendan Ross, who will start on the front row of Pro-Am, who is third in that championship, 35 points, just 7 points behind Scott.
Yes, and Scott Nolan conceding defeat for the night, that he's been beaten by the track and is out of the race, and Hobson, his teammate, a little bit upset by that. There's a crying face in the chat.
Well, so it's unfortunate that Scott Nolan, actually, he runs the Synergy Sim Racing team for the Pro-Am category, so his car looks very similar to Brenton Hobson's, being that they're both from the same stable, albeit in different classes.
Yep. That's right, and all apart from the rear wing.
Yes, the rear wing being the major differing factor, with a lot more downforce on that Brenton Hobson car.
That's right. Just coming back to your point too, Stairs, about the pit entrance as well. Given its proximity to the racing line as well, that'll be a hot topic as well if people want to come into the pits. I'm hoping we're not going to see any rear-ending there tonight, but we'll soon find out.
We certainly will. So, time for gridding up, and we've got a strange camera on this particular circuit that tracks all the way down to the end of the pit lane, which makes it a little bit difficult to see, but there are all the cars starting to make their way onto the grid. Still got a little bit of time remaining until they get going.
There's a bit of a call as well. A few people got kicked out of the race unexpectedly as well. We're just trying to work out who's missing. Obviously, Nolan's gone.
We got 18 cars.
Cam Rutledge and Brian Walsh missing.
And the warm-up lap has started, so they're missing now. Unless the server is restarted, they won't make the race, and it has been restarted, so that's
Matt Williams
sensible. Sensible call from Matt Williams there.
Yeah.
And we'll sit here. Well, it looks like we're still waiting for those missing people to jump back in. There's still 18 people in the server. Who did you say was missing?
It looks like Brian Walsh is missing. Cam Rutledge is missing. So they got booted when the server ticked over into race. Now, I didn't recall
looks like Walsh
seeing them. Yeah, Brian Walsh is back in. And Cam Rutledge left the game, so I'm just looking down to see what's happening there. Now, I don't recall seeing them having any mismatches either, so... Actually, we might have to just do a little... There's a call here potentially that the grid might have to be reset, so we'll... Going to note a few things here, Stairs, so go through the order while I'm making some notes here, mate.
We will. So Shane Chancellor is the pole sitter by 1 second over Will Devonish. So Will Devonish starting on the first row again. We'll see if he can get off the line a bit better than he did in the Porsches last week. Dwayne Davies, number 55 there, in third place from Jamie Snow. Jamie Snow starts ahead of Philip Boak, the leading PBF race engineering car, with Brenton Foley the second of the two. They occupy the third row of the grid, getting a little bit of a nudge there from Scruff, who starts in 7th place. Cracker starts in 8th place. And that rounds out the Pro AB runners. Big Dog is the pole sitter for the Pro-Am Championship, and he will start from... Now, this is where we're missing a few people, because Cam Rutledge did qualify in 2nd. So, we're missing Cam Rutledge and Brendan Ross, are we? Because Gary Neville...
Ross, I think you said Brendan Ross was the one that qualified 2nd in Pro AB.
Yeah, I beg your pardon. I'll correct myself right now on that one. Cam Rutledge qualified 2nd there. Brendan Ross qualified 3rd, but I called it wrong because Cam Rutledge was already out of the server at that point, and so it was showing him in 2nd. So, unfortunately, those two are missing. It means Gary Neville's starting in 2nd place, so that's very bad news if they can't make the grid. Topher's at the end of the pit lane, so he hopefully knows the drill. He's sat patiently there waiting for the light to go green, which won't be for some time, unfortunately. Luke Joyner there is poised to take over the championship lead here, with his nearest two rivals not even here. Brian Walsh will start at a 13th. Brenton Hobson will start 14th. Glenn Miles 15th, and Brock Harvey 16th. Mike Coulston 17th. Yes, we didn't actually see the car of Brenton Hobson there. So what on earth is going on here?
Well, the system has said that he left the game, but then came back in. So I'm wondering whether or not he's also missing the start as well. There actually are quite a few people missing.
You may have to start from
very sparsely populated.
Well, it's just Topher showing us in the pits at the moment, so we couldn't actually see what happened to the Brenton Hobson car. So now, do you feel like we need to restart the server here and just make sure that everyone's here, because we've got so many people missing?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this does get waved off. If the start gets waved off, there's already a few people having issues getting into grid slots and everything as well. So
well, I would certainly say that it really does need to get waved off. I mean, there's cars. Oh, it looks like Brock Harvey's not in his spot, or no, because he didn't qualify, so he's starting at the back. He is in his spot, but there's a lot of empty grid boxes there. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5. So, and the lights aren't going green. So I have a feeling that we're going to sort this out, because it's only fair, because we've got so many people not in the race.
Yeah, we've seen this before, Stairs, especially in ARW land as well, where we've restarted weekends before, or not restarted races before after a formation lap's begun, and it turns out that the track does not want to actually tick over and show the green flag. So I've got a funny feeling this is going to be waved off, but we'll soon find out. I don't think they're going to have much choice, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, either that or someone isn't lined up properly, because it's not happening. It's sort of an anticlimactic start to this race here. There's no engine sounds at all. And it really should be up to whoever's running the server to tick it over and restart it. We may need to manually set, or actually we just lost Scruff there, so he might be the one sorting the issue out.
Yep.
So he disappeared off the screen, and I'm seeing movement on my live races screen. Yes, that's ticking over, and here we go. Now you can see that the server has been reset.
All right. Well, I have a little bit of information for Scruff, so I will disappear off and help him reset that order, and I shall return shortly.
No worries. Well, we'll have a quick break while that's happening, and we'll come back with all the action from race 1.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, just waiting.
And it's lights out and away we go. It's a great start from Sebastian Vettel. We come up the inside. McLaughlin gets it to They run, but the Red Bull Racing man has got through. The champion's done the job. They're all gone. They're all gone. Tanner's off. McLaughlin's off. Make room. Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. There's another 7-time champ. Jimmy Johnson wins his 7th NASCAR Sprint Cup championship.
Welcome back, everybody. It appears as though common sense has prevailed and we are in the process of resetting the server as a result of, or in response to, I believe, as many as 5 cars being kicked from the server at the beginning of the race. Not really sure why that happened, but it certainly makes sense that with that number of cars being affected, that we'd start again. We want to get a full grid. We certainly don't want to discourage anyone from racing by racing anyway, even after they got kicked, even if it was just one driver. But it was as many as 5, including the Pro-Am runners of Brendan Ross, Cam Rutledge, also Brenton Hobson. And it's an issue that has affected a couple of others as well. And also Topher not making it to the grid, starting from the pit lane. So all of these guys get a second chance. Not that they were at fault for it the first time. And just in the process of ticking over at the moment. So I believe there probably is a requirement to set the grid manually as a result of that. So that is something that may well take a little bit of time. We've got Brock Harvey in here. Brock, are you with us? perhaps not. Well, this is a good opportunity for anyone watching to make their predictions. Actually, we've got Scott and Oran joining us in the box there. Now, Scott, you didn't fix your issues, did you?
No, not yet, Stairs. It's yeah, the team. I've had an engine issue, and the team are out there in the garage fixing it at the moment. So something like that. I don't know. It's yeah. I'm a little bit frustrated, but you know that's just the game it is. You know, you can not make the start of a real life race because of some mechanical issue. So this is the virtual way of having that.
Yes, unfortunately, there is an equivalent in sim racing to technical issues. Well, which is technical issues. So it doesn't seem to be as though you're the only one affected tonight, though. Obviously, yours is probably something that's a little bit more difficult to solve, but we've had a bunch of people getting kicked from the start of this race. Yeah,
it's really weird. I've spoken to a few of them down there, and like Brenton's not really sure what happened. Neither's Brian Walsh. Like both of them. Not getting any mismatches, and obviously, got just kicked as it ticked over to go to grid. So, not really sure what the issue is, but good on the organisers for trying to restart it and trying to get those guys back in. For me, I'm not very optimistic at the moment. So, look, I'm re-downloading stuff as we speak and copying and pasting at the moment, trying to get in there and trying to close that championship gap to Luke, but might be one of those nights, I think.
Well, for sure. Well, at least there is the potential that you could salvage something from tonight with the second race, and all of these troubleshooting efforts going on with other people tonight is at least giving you a bit more of a chance to get that done, because it's all taking up some time.
Yes, yeah, it is. It's helping. So, yeah, look, I'm just going to keep going and keep trying to work away at it here and see where we end up. And if you see my beautifully well presented Synergy Sim Racing car on the track, then the team got it done and we got it fixed. And if not, we'll put it back in the transporter and ship her off to next round and see what happens.
Well, certainly we hope that you can make it for race 2, but we'll let you get back to trying to solve those issues. Speaking of Synergy Sim Racing, the Pro A driver Brenton Hobson's here. Now, what happened from your perspective there? You got kicked as the server went through to the race itself.
Yeah, that's right. I got booted from the server when it switched across to the race session, so I'm not sure why or whatever, but yeah, that was what happened to me, and that was pretty disappointing. I'm glad they restarted it, although I don't know they wanted to.
Well, we certainly wanted them to. He said I think there was 5 drivers affected by this, so certainly makes sense to reset it.
Oh, I agree, especially for me, my point of view, leading the championship, I can't afford to drop races, so I thought I had an extra half an hour to get in for qualifying tonight and just missed the start of that by about 3 seconds, so couldn't join the server for qualifying, and means I've got to start from the back again here tonight in the first race, and that's enough of a punishment for me at the minute, and to not even make the start grid would have made it just that much worse. But hopefully we can get in here, get the start in, and come from the back and pick up some good points.
For sure. One thing we have that we didn't have last week when you started from the back is the pit stops, so that may well play into how you run your race tonight, the timing of your pit stop. Well,
yeah, it's true. It might. The pit stops tend to hurt me more than they help me, those Stairs. So I don't know that that's how it's going to play out. But yeah, you're right. We do have pit stops. It might open up the strategy. What I'm more concerned about is probably the fact that I've got most likely lap cars to try and, or not lap cars, sorry, slow cars to negotiate here off the start. So don't know whether or not I'll be kindly bumped in front of all those guys here now that it's being reset manually, or if I'll have to start right at the back. But hopefully we get a good, clean start.
I'll take that promotion too.
Yeah.
Yes, a few cars out of position tonight with the technical issues that we've had and people not being able to qualify. We'll wait and see what happens there. Looks like we're still in the process of manually setting the grid there. Nether, can you shed any light on that at all?
I can. I'm in the process of doing it right now.
Okay, so you've been entrusted with this holy task. Do you need the results, or have you got them in front of you?
Got them all in front of me, mate.
There we
all
go.
good.
I'd expect nothing less. So, well, I wonder what we can talk about next. Maybe we can get the live chat involved and ask them what their predictions are for the race. We've made our predictions, you and I, Nether. So maybe it's an opportunity for the viewers to get involved. We appreciate their patience. Well, we appreciate your patience. I'm talking directly to you guys as the viewers. Normally, we probably would be somewhere near finishing the first race by this stage, but unfortunately, it's still yet to begin, but won't be very long at all.
No, certainly not. Just busy typing away here to try and get a few things done. I'm about halfway through the order, so hopefully it won't be too much longer before we get underway. I'm just praying to God that everybody can stay in the server so I can get this done in one hit.
Well, Luke Joyner's optimistic. My prediction is that the same people will get booted again. Certainly hope you're not right there, Luke, but there is always the threat that whatever caused it could potentially rear its ugly neck again. So it has happened once. It can possibly happen again. But well, I might just run down the qualifying results for the viewers in case they have forgotten. It was Shane Chancellor who set the fastest lap in qualifying, set probably multiple fastest laps in qualifying. He was just chipping away in the 110s, did several of them, and ended up on a 110.5, which was good enough for pole position by over a second from Will Devonish. Devonish himself has a lot of guys quite close behind him. Dwayne Davies only a 10th behind, and Jamie Snow a further 10th. So that looks like that's set to be an interesting battle indeed on the racetrack. We saw some fantastic squabbles going on at Albert Park in amongst the midfield sort of final position on the podium. Philip Boak starting from 5th place and Brenton Foley, those two separated by about 0.2 of a second. And Philip Boak at this stage of the season seems to just have maybe a little bit more pace than his teammate, albeit he's behind on points because he didn't finish in the first race at Sandown, and that's why Brenton Foley is ahead of him on points, just 5 points separating them. Matt Williams 2.3 seconds off pole position, and Cracker 3.6, so those two starting on the 4th row of the grid. And we also mentioned Big Dog's fantastic pole position performance. He was faster than Cam Rutledge by about 0.7 of a second. So that was quite a dominant pole position for Big Dog. Brendan Ross was a further 0.4 behind Cam Rutledge, and Gary Neville's not too far off the pace of Brendan Ross. There was about 0.2 separating them, and then Topher and Luke Joyner the next two closest. It's sort of a 2x2 kind of qualifying session where you have big gaps and then small gaps, because Topher's about 0.6 behind Gary Neville, but only about 0.2 ahead of Luke Joyner, and then Brian Walsh a further second behind him. So Nether's still running through the order there by the looks of it, so we'll probably take this opportunity to have another quick break so I don't lose my voice. And then hopefully by that stage we'll be ready to get racing.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, just waiting.
It's lights out and away we go. It's a great start from Sebastian Vettel. We come up the inside. McLaughlin gets it to They run, but the Red Bull Racing man has got through. The champion's done the job. They're all gone. They're all gone. Tander's off. McLaughlin's off.
Make room. Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. There's another 7-time champ. Jimmy Johnson wins his 7th NASCAR Sprint Cup championship.
Welcome back. We are about to have action. There's lights ablaze at the head of the grid as cars have gridded up for the beginning of this race. As you can see, we've got most of the field here where we've got our fingers firmly crossed that the mismatch issues that caused people to get booted don't happen again. And we're just seconds away from the cars coming away from the grid.
Well, it's looking good so far, Stairs. We've got a full grid of 19 cars, and there were 19 positions to set. So formation lap is commencing, and we've still got 19 cars. So looking good.
Well, that's very positive. We'll go just through them again quickly. We've just gone through in quite large detail the gaps in qualifying, but as we mentioned, Shane Chancellor, who currently sits in third in the championship points, he will start from pole from Will Devonish. Behind him, Dwayne Davies and Jamie Snow occupying the second row. Jamie Snow eager to get going, warming those fronts. Phil Boak and Brenton Foley occupy the next row of the grid, followed by Matt Williams and Cracker, and that rounds out Pro AB. Big Dog, the pole sitter in Pro Am from Cam Rutledge and Brendan Ross. Gary Neville starts out of 4th place in class, with Topher making the grid this time. He starts in 5th, and 6th is Luke Joyner, the current championship leader in Pro Am. Brian Walsh starts 15th overall, and then Glenn Miles and Brock Harvey and Brenton Hobson at the back of the grid with Mike Coulston behind them. So those three at the back having made the grid, and as you mentioned, doesn't look like they've been kicked. So I mean, I don't want to speak too early, but it looks like we're in the clear.
No, it looks like looking good so far, and hopefully this time around we're not going to have the sitting on the grid with no activity. With a bit of luck, it'll all go according to plan. So a couple of cars out of position at the back of the grid, Harvey and Hobson. So watch out for them lap 1 as they make their way through the traffic. They'll probably get through. They'll probably get the much better launch and probably pass a couple of cars before they get to turn 1 and 2, and then they'll have to find their way through the remainder of the Pro AB cars for lap 1.
Well, looks like we've got the green flag ready to go, and the lights are about to get us racing for the 3rd time here in the Super Series. And once again, it's a fantastic start from Shane Chancellor, but behind him it's 3 wide with Jamie Snow looking to fight his way up into 2nd place, but it's Dwayne Davies on the inside, and Dwayne Davies, if he gets it stopped, and he hasn't, he's gone sailing wide off at turn 1 and out of this race already. What a disaster there. Brenton Hobson is up into 6th place already. How did that happen?
They got a brilliant launch, Hobson and Harvey, from the back of the grid, and they stormed through the middle and the side of all the Pro AB guys, and they were past them all well before they got to turn 1.
There you go. So after all that, it's Brenton Foley in 2nd place. What a tremendous start from him, up ahead of Will Devonish. So Will Devonish losing out initially to Dwayne Davies, but obviously Dwayne Davies carved a path for Brenton Foley to come up through. Philip Boak has, he's gained a few positions, he's lost a few positions. It's a net 1 position gain from his qualifying session, and Matt Williams going wide there, but Shane Chancellor leading in this early stage.
Yep, and Cam Rutledge has outpointed Big Dog for
Brock Harvey off
Pro B as well.
And Brock Harvey.
Yeah, Harvey's gone off unsighted. I'm not sure what's going on there for Brock Harvey, whether he just ran a little bit wide or what's happened to him, but he's right back in the pack now with all the Pro AB guys.
Yeah, we're just trying to catch a replay, and it looks like
feeling Harvey's coming in. Harvey's coming in, so he's going to get a compulsory pit stop over and done with here. So this is very early.
I have a feeling he's probably going to have some damage to deal with there. The car just got unsettled over some of the undulation that this circuit has, and he's tucked up behind a few others. Dwayne Davies has actually kept going. I thought when I saw that accident that would put him out of the race immediately. It was a very hard hit with the wall, and he's still running for now, but obviously not in the same sort of position as we saw when he was challenging. We've got Dwayne Davies coming around the final corner now, so unless he comes into the pits, will...
Yeah, he is.
He is coming into the pits?
He is in the pits,
There you
and
go.
Harvey in as well. Harvey actually whacked the wall on the outside of turn 11 as well, so thankfully wasn't that far from the pit lane. But so he's in. So as well as repairing likely damage, compulsory pit stops getting over and done with rather early as well. DD's about to go a lap down here.
And that is the trouble with such a short lap. They will go a lap down if you have a lengthy pit stop because they have to repair damage. And that's
Harvey going a lap down as well.
That's messy for him. It's basically ruined his race because the safety car's not going to save him now unless everyone pits in front of him and he gets his lap back, but I don't see that happening if there's a safety car.
I certainly don't see that happening either at the minute. Chancellor's kicked away quite nicely to the tune of 2 seconds here over Foley. Hobson's moved up to 4th, so next on the pecking order for Hobson is Will Devonish, and given his recent form, he's battling away there with Foley actually as well. Oh, Hobson very wide just off of, was that turn 4 as well?
Oh, there's a crash in Pro-Am behind the lead. It's Gary Neville involved. And what on earth happened there? We're just watching because Cam Rutledge has lost the lead of Pro-Am, and that has allowed Big Dog back through into the lead. We're just trying to catch a replay of who it was involved.
It was Brian Walsh by the look of it, Stairs. Walsh was wide at turn 2 and came back onto the track in front of Neville, and Neville had nowhere to go by the look of it.
So that's unfortunate, and it's a bit tricky. We don't really have time to catch the rest of that replay, and we rejoin Brian Walsh as he is back off the track. So it's Big Dog leading from Brendan Ross in Pro-Am, and Brenton Hobson's up into 4th, having dispatched Philip Boak already. So that took no time at all, and that actually puts him in with a shout of winning this race.
And I've just noticed that Devonish has actually passed Foley as well.
Oh, but Foley's fighting back, and he's going to go deep. He's gone well deep, and he's going to relinquish the position to Hobson there. So that was another freebie for Brenton Hobson. So Foley going in as many corners down from 2nd to 4th place.
Well, if Hobson was the Simpsons character, it'd all be coming up Millhouse for him at the moment because he's had quite an easy run through the traffic at the moment, and a few people falling off the road ahead of him, so all in his favour, not having to work very hard for it. And next on the pecking order, still Will Devonish, and before all that kicked off, I was going to say, with Devonish's form, if you can carry that over from Pukekohe, he's definitely going to make his car very, very wide to pass.
Yes, but Hobson will probably be looking to... Oh, PMF Race Engineering car, Brenton Foley there just hitting the wall. Hobson will be looking to put Devonish under a lot of pressure. Devonish had kind of lonely races in the Porsche Series race last week, so he wasn't really put under the sort of pressure that we would expect him to receive tonight.
No, certainly not. And Big Dog has resumed the lead in Pro AB class and taken out one of the sponsor signs to boot on the run up through turn 11.
Yeah, now Ross was in 2nd in that fight, and he's dropped back down to 16th place. It's his 2nd last overall, 2nd last in class, so not ideal for him. We don't know what happened to him, but it means that Luke Joyner has made his way up into 2nd. He's so consistent in the races after starting back down there in 5th place, and Brenton Hobson up the inside of Will Devonish here, and unfortunately he's not got the inside for the next line, but he drives around the outside. That's the corner where Brock Harvey came a cropper, and he's through up into 2nd place.
That's a beautiful move from Hobson coming into the last turn as well, as Chancellor bangs in a fastest lap of the race so far. Well, now he's got Hobson behind him, effectively Chancellor. He's got 6 and a bit seconds on him, and he's going to need every bit of them probably to keep that SSR car behind him if Hobson is looking like he's going to drive away from Devonish. But Devonish just trying his best to hang on here, so it's not quite over and done with yet.
Well, we're going to see what kind of pace Hobson has, and he's close enough for the pit strategy to throw up a few curveballs. If Shane does a 4-tyre change just for security, and Hobson was to opt for a 2-tyre change, then he could leapfrog Shane in the pits.
Yeah, potentially it's on offer there. Just looking as well, Brendan Ross got no bonnet, so he's in the pit lane as well. So compulsory pit stop out of the way. So only 3 cars have taken compulsory pit stop so far. Some drivers probably looking to split it in half, and some will be reactive to other drivers, I'd imagine, around them.
So it couldn't go on much better if your name is Luke Joyner, because sitting in second place and his nearest championship rival Scott Nolan isn't here. Brendan Ross in the pits with damage. Next man is Cam Rutledge, and he's 2 positions ahead of him.
Yeah, Cam Rutledge has dropped back from his original starting position 2 places, so not quite out of it yet, but close enough to be within striking distance once these pit stops start to shake out. It'll just be a matter of, can anyone get in and get the undercut, or can someone manage to keep their tyres in good shape for a little bit longer and go that bit longer and capitalise on someone else's in-laps and out-laps if they're not up to scratch.
Well, here is the battle for second in class for the Pro-Ams, and Luke Joyner holding Topher at bay at the moment. Topher will probably just be, you know, thinking to get this position. He's not too worried about championship points. He missed the race in Albert Park. He had a podium in his first race at Sandown, and he's looking odds on for another podium here in class. And third is good, but second is better. So he's got eyes on Luke Joyner's position at the moment.
Oh yeah, he certainly does. And Big Dog's still doing a good job at the head of the field, just driving nice and cleanly and consistently. He's got what's he got there? He's got 7.3 seconds on Joyner as well. So all that squabbling behind him once he got back in front after surrendering the lead in class on the opening lap, he's kept his head down and built himself quite a handy gap here. So he's insulating himself well when it comes to the pit stops.
Coming good is Big Dog. He came second in the previous race at Albert Park.
Yeah, he had a very, very good race there.
So he's going from strength to strength, and he also set the fastest lap in that particular race, with Scott Nolan winning that race. So his nearest competition in that race isn't here. So he's just got to keep circulating, because looking at the lap times, he is pulling out 2 seconds a lap on Luke Joyner, who for the time being is keeping Topher behind him.
Yeah,
but
he's consistently lapping in the 17s, Big Dog. His best lap's a 17.1. That time was a 17.7 around. But to give you an idea, most of the other drivers are their best laps are in the 18s and 19s, and they're consistently lapping in the 18s and 19s.
Sorry, huge moment there for Brenton Foley, who's on the ragged edge.
Hobson in, Stairs. Hobson in, and he's got flames. Hobson's got flames
in
the back of the car. This is not good.
Oh no. Well, that's it for Brenton Hobson. Game, set and match, job done. After the disappointment, the roller coaster of emotions, not making it to the grid, and then there being a reset, and he was able to make the grid, getting a huge number of positions off the grid, up into second place. But in his pursuit of Shane Chancellor, he has blown that Lancer engine, and it was the story of the Super Series in the Porsches. And now, it's the first engine failure we've seen from him in the Lancers, but it has come at the worst possible moment.
It certainly has, very, very early into this particular race, and it's now going to be all about how he bounces back from this adversity. Can he put it on the pole in race number 2, or get up there and threaten Shane in race number 2 if he manages to get himself going in time? Because this is going to bleed him dry of points in this race, and it'll put him on the back foot in the championship as well. He'll have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, well, there will be absolutely no points for him in this particular race. And where Shane Chancellor sits at the moment, he'll collect 15 points for a race win, which would put him on 45. Just 7 points adrift. Hobson would still lead the championship at the end of this race if Shane Chancellor were to win it, but his advantage cut considerably smaller.
Yes, it'll be very, very drastically cut. Now we're starting to see a few drivers take to the lane. So Matt Williams is coming in now. So he's 7th in class. Get his compulsory pit stop over and done with. Interestingly, Hobson was in the pit lane. Now he's gone into the pit garage. So I thought that maybe we were trying to repair that car, but nope, not able to be done.
Yeah, I think he's tried that before,
definitely retired.
But you can't fix a broken engine in Automobilista. It just doesn't happen as much as he might like it to, but unbelievable. We've also had, it looks like a DNF from Cracker, which, and we didn't see what caused that. We'll try and see if we can, oh, it was a crash. So just caught the tail end of it on the replay there, going wide at the first corner, I think that is.
That's, yeah, turn 1-2.
And straight off, that was where Dwayne Davies went off, and I thought Dwayne Davies was going to be out of the race with that, but he was able to continue, but In this case, Cracker unable to continue. And out of the race, which means that Big Dog's first in class is actually 6th place overall, which is nothing to be sneezed at.
Certainly not, and it's actually really good for him too, because if you look where Brock Harvey's down there, 15th overall, so in class he's a bit further up, and Matt Williams has come in as well. So that's why Big Dog has managed to get himself up the order a bit more. So once he comes in, Matt Williams will go back ahead and put Big Dog back down to 7th, but still 7th on the road. Top job, keeping his nose clean as ever.
Absolutely. And Luke Joyner is still in 2nd place. That's probably the closest battle on the track at the moment between Big Dog and Topher, as Brenton Foley puts Cam... Sorry, not Cam Rutledge, puts Brendan Ross another lap down.
Yep. Speaking of Cam Rutledge, looks like he'll be in for compulsory pit stop this lap. He's just coming up through turn 10 and 11 and to the final corner now. Not really a steady stream of drivers coming into the pits for their compulsory stop stairs. It's very sporadic for a change.
Yeah, we normally see people split the race exactly in 2. And Brock Harvey, incidentally, has become our 3rd retirement of the race, so probably still struggling with the damage from the earlier accident that we saw him have. And that was a little bit awkward there with some of the guys now coming through to lap the Lancer R guys in 2nd and 3rd, but Luke Joyner at the moment equal to the task of letting the cars past and keeping Topher behind him.
Yes, absolutely. So looking through the field to see where we might be expecting the next lot of stoppers to come in. Looks like we might be seeing Luke Joyner in this lap as well, potentially. So this is
is in at the moment.
Rutledge is in, indeed. So Joyner close enough. This is lap 11 for the Pro Am guys. So this is probably as close as they're going to get to a half distance, considering they'll be lapped probably at least twice during the race. As Joyner lets, that's Boak and Foley round him up.
Oh, they caught him in a tricky part of the circuit. One of them went on the right, one of them went on the left. But in that whole exchange, Topher's dropped car lengths on Luke Joyner.
Yep. And no, Joyner's going for another lap because so Foley's in.
Foley's in.
So Joyner elects to go for another lap. Probably a late call, I'd imagine, as well. Looks like it might be
interesting to see whether there is any advantage in new tyres around this track. The nearest comparison would be Philip Boak.
Sorry, Stairs. We've just seen Glenn Miles go over the bridge, and he is also blown an engine.
How bizarre! So let's catch a replay of that. Let's go on board. He's already blown it at that point.
Yeah, that was going up the hill towards the bridge. As soon as you come over the bridge, flames out the back. Brendan Ross having another moment down there at turn number 2 as well. So not a great race for Rossi.
So this short little track with its twisty tight corners proving to be troublesome for these little Lancer engines.
Yep. What I did, and Shane Chancellor making a very late decision to come in to the pits right now. So he hadn't actually told the pit crew to be ready. So I'm wondering, because normally we get the little cog icon that shows us when the pits, when they're planning for a pit stop, but he was back far enough at the pit entrance that maybe he might get away with this.
Well, he does have a pretty handy advantage over Will Devonish in 2nd place.
Devonish is in as well.
He is, and that means Jamie Snow is going to assume 2nd place with Phil Boak in the lead, having not made his pit stop.
Joyner in as well, and Coulston coming in too, and Gary Neville.
So a hive of activity in the pit lane at the moment.
They are splitting it in half.
Ooh. And Luke Joyner having to, I wonder if that will work. He's having to share a pit boom with Will Devonish there.
Devonish.
And trying to get in there snug. We know that can work if there is enough of the red box there for you to just touch it. Your car can possibly be serviced at the same time as another car.
You know, we've seen that a few times, a few nose-to-tail pit stopping, and unfortunately that's what happens is some of these tracks where the pit booms get shared, and it can be a bit messy, but looks like he managed to get away with that because the timer was still going.
Well, if anything, I think Shane's extended his advantage over Will in that particular pit stop's about 14 seconds now, so that's almost doubled as Brendan Ross receives a drive-through penalty, so coming unstuck with the pit penalty, I would expect. The pit lane speed limit, I beg your pardon.
I'm just having a bit of a look to see what's happened to Brendan Ross. I don't think he came out of the pits. I think this is going to be we actually had 2 wheels off the deck through turn 2 as well.
Oh, corner cutting then.
It's going to be a corner cut penalty. Yeah, he wasn't in the pits at all. It's a corner cut infringement there for Brendan Ross.
Well, we did see in qualifying there are a lot of cars having their laps invalidated by corner cuts, so easy to do.
Very, very easy to do. I've been watching, especially through turns 10 and 11, and seeing the lines that some of those cars are taking, and I could swear that I think that some of them are going to get penalised for a corner cut, but they don't seem to be. So probably a couple of unusual corners and the lines, or the AI lines.
Now this is interesting. Boak's losing the position to Brenton Foley now. Foley's just gone through, and he will come out a long way behind, so that suggests to me that they've gone for a different strategy on tyres. I think Boak must have changed to all 4 tyres and Foley just the 2.
Yep, well, Boak has come out of the pits with snow behind. Also, Big Dog has made his stop as well, and Topher looks like he came in at the same time as well. So Big Dog has maintained his lead. Topher behind. And
he's jumped Luke Joyner.
And Luke Joyner, it says Luke Joyner's a minute behind, but I don't think that's entirely correct.
Might be yet to update. It looks like it's on my screen. It's saying it's about a second now. So
now it's corrected itself.
There he is.
Yes,
but
right.
Luke Joyner has lost time somewhere. Maybe Topher put in a decent lap once Luke had pit, and it's worked out for him because he's jumped him in the pits.
That's right, even though it's very, very close between those top 3 on track as well. So Big Dog 9th, Topher 10th, Joyner 11th. So they're only split on the road by about 4 seconds, but they'll probably come together. And not only that, they're a lap down. Yeah, they are a lap down on the field. So probably going to go at least, or go close to going another lap down between now and the end of the race. So in reality, they've only got 21 laps for the race. So they've only got another 7 to smash out for position.
So Big Dog's advantage has been cut to about a second, basically. That's what's happened in this pit strategy as it's shaken out, because he had a lead of something in the order of 8 seconds.
Yeah, he had a big lead over Luke Joyner as well. Now Joyner did elect to go a lap longer than what probably the screens were indicating to us. So wondering whether or not that was an intentional decision or it was reactive, and whether or not he's made a gain there through Big Dog maybe having a rough in lap or a rough out lap.
I get the feeling that Big Dog did the 4 tyre change. Oh, and he's put 2 wheels on the grass there, very wide coming up to the bridge, as Brian Walsh gets a drive-through penalty now.
Yep.
And he just doesn't have the speed. Topher's all over him. He's going to drive past him. Yeah,
this is something's not right with that purple and black car. He looks like he's under. It just looks like he's got that perceived pressure sort of thing about him, doesn't it? Like he's been driving really, really well.
But Topher's lost it. Is he going to save it? He might keep it out of the wall, but he's going to be on the racing line. That's a dangerous place. Luke Joyner goes through.
Great avoiding action by Joyner.
It was very good, and Topher's going to lose the position to Cam Rutledge as well. So that has all of a sudden destroyed his chances of winning this race. It looked like he had an excellent chance.
As well. Rutledge has gone through too, so bad luck for Topher, but he certainly was applying the pressure, but Big Dog has managed to withstand the pressure.
Speaking of pressure, Shane Chancellor's just bung out a 10.8, fastest lap of the race by some margin.
Yeah, that's only 0.3 of a second off his qualifying pace as well, Stairs. His qualifying time was a 10.5, so just showing what he can do. He's obviously needed a little bit of time to get in sync with the track and the car, and now he's in the sweet spot and well and truly in the zone.
We'll keep an eye on Big Dog's lap times. Last time around he did a 1:20, so I wonder if he just made a mistake somewhere and Topher was all over him there when he was just trying to get back into a rhythm. His sector time looks fine in the first sector here. It's similar to Luke Joyner's, so we'll just put a bookmark on that one, He's not under perceived pressure like you mentioned before. Now he's got a thick end of 3 seconds between himself.
That's more like it. He's been doing 17s before his pit stop. He's done a 17.9 this time around. So back in the rhythm, even though he's a little bit wide at the last turn as well. But back in the groove, and hopefully hold off Joyner as well. So it's actually increased his advantage over Joyner by another 10th that time around.
Oh, round goes Devonish. I was about to bring the audience's attention because Foley has been taking chunks out of Devonish. He's come alive after the pit stops, but they just got into each other as we joined them, and looks like Foley, recognising that it was his fault, let off the throttle to give the position back to Devonish, and that's good. It means there won't be any requirement for a steward's inquiry after that one. But Foley is making a very strong bid for second place in this race.
He is making a very strong challenge for second place, and good driving as well, realising that, you know, the simplest way to correct that was just to get out of the throttle and to cede the position and not try and press on with it, and then just find another opportunity to have another go around the track. And he's getting closer. He probably won't have a nibble here into turn number 4 and 5 as they head up to the bridge. The next opportunity for him is probably going to be down towards turn 12, or sorry, turn 9 if he gets a run, and then turn 12 after that.
Topher's recovered his position on the podium in Super Series Pro-Am's what I'm looking for. He's overtaken Cam Rutledge.
Well, here goes Foley, Stairs. He's right over the back of Devonish here. Devonish going defensive, and Foley's going to have a look at the inside of turn 12 here. I think he's close enough, but no. Maybe you're going to... Oh, gets the over and under.
Devonish wide, and through in the inside goes Brenton Foley, and that's a drag race down to turn 1 with Brenton Foley with his nose ahead on the inside. Yeah, I'd say job done.
Yep, although Devonish might have another go back at the inside here. Another over and under. Can
Foley,
break him?
He opened the door. He went back to take his racing line. Now he's off. He's off on the grass there, and that's it for Brenton Foley in the gravel.
And Poke third as well at this rate. Here comes Poke now.
Snow too.
And Snow as well. So, yep, Poke through to third. Snow through to fourth. Foley down to fifth. And I just got the funny feeling, Stairs, that he was positioned there. He knew he'd gotten past Devonish, and I think he was just under that little bit in that mindset that Devonish was going to have another nibble at him. So he tried to give him a bit of room in case he was there. And in the end, he really gave him too much room.
There is no room at turn 1 to go wide. It just spits you straight off. Takes no prisoners, and that was almost a mirror of what we saw with Topher and Big Dog. Not the same part of the track, but someone battling for a position, looking like they were the faster car, and then going off and losing a handful of positions.
Yep, and turn 1 and 2 have been the primary victim, or the primary instigators of all the off-track shenanigans in this race as well, and I dare say it's not over and done with because we've still got another race to go. We're going to see a few more probably.
So Phil Boak, the inheritance goes to him from his PBF Race Engineering teammate, up into third place, and Will Devonish, having staved off the challenge, is looking pretty comfortable in second now. But Jamie Snow, what can Jamie Snow do about Philip Boak? He's marginally quicker. Last time around, he was about 0.2 of a second faster than Boak, and on average, that seems to be his advantage in pace over Philip Boak.
Foley's off for the second time, Stairs. I'm just trying to work out where he actually is. He looks like he might be down at the same sort of section again. He's got he's missing a skirt, and he's hit the wall.
That's the Dwayne. Hard. Oh, that's the Dwayne Davies wall. That's the one that Cracker hit, which put him out of the race.
Turn 2 again. And those gravel traps are quite nasty as well. He's got going again, so now down to 6th. He's surrendered 5th place to Matt Williams too. So gone from bad to worse for Foley in the space of a couple of laps, and that car's not turning either.
He's not going to get. He's going to lose the position to Dwayne Davies. Dwayne Davies is 30 seconds behind him, but I think Foley will either need to pit for damage or retire here because he can't actually get out of the gravel trap at the moment.
Well, the car didn't want to steer right either. So
he'll be seeing
to go around the right-hand bend, and it just wouldn't turn.
He'll be seeing a few more gravel traps if he doesn't get that damaged. It is right-hand down by the looks of it.
Yeah, so even trying to turn right there, he just would not go. So I think that's games. He's trying to get around. I get it, to get the points, but game, set, and match. He is actually a classified finisher at this point if he can get to the start-finish line. But it's going to be a battle here, I think.
Well, he has to get the car to a point where it's drivable, where he can do a final lap within, I think it's 130%. Yeah, 130% of the fastest lap for the race. So he's not going to be able to do that with the car in its current state.
Well, now it's moving.
But he has to pit.
Points are very, very important at this stage, given that Brenton Hobson is currently missing from this race. So all the points that they can get while he's not here, they certainly want to try and grab.
Certainly right. The interesting thing, though, is that points go down to 10th place in the class, and there's going to be a lot of points that go begging. Foley in 7th place, with Dwayne Davis having taken that position of him, and he's now last in class because everyone else behind him is Pro-Am, so he can't actually lose any more points. So if he can just get it to the pits, which he's done, and get a repair job so that he can actually finish the race. And Shane Chancellor, while we've been talking about that, is sublimely onto his final lap of the race.
Yeah, he's just been a streets ahead of anybody else too. Matt Williams actually took his compulsory pit stop on lap 22, Stairs, so he went right all the way through. That's why he's marched back up to 5th place.
But here we are. Shane Chancellor keeps his unbeaten record in this particular series alive. That's 3 wins from the 3 races that he's competed in, and dramatically cuts the championship advantage of Brenton Hobson. Behind him, Will Devonish finishes second, distant in the end, 32 seconds.
Well, your race one winner in Pro-Am in Big Dog has just crossed the line, Stairs, and he actually continued to pull out the margin again. He got the margin over Joyner back out to over 8 seconds as well by the checkered flag. Great drive. Great drive indeed, and Luke Joyner finishing second after holding off, well, he was holding off Topher. Third. He was holding off Topher for most of that race, but Topher got him in the pit stops and had a brief tilt at the win, but ultimately lost out and was able to recover to get back on the podium, which is a good result in the end. So Jamie Snow finishes 4th, with Philip Boak rounding out the podium on Pro AB. Matt Williams in 5th, and in 6th Dwayne Davis, Brenton Foley, the final of the Pro B runners. And behind Topher for the podium of Pro-Am was Cam Rutledge, Mike Coulston, Gary Neville and Brian Walsh. Yep, and we had 5 retirements at the end of all that as well. With Brendan Ross, he retired 6 laps from home. Glenn Miles, he did an engine. He finished with was 13 laps from home. Cracker, Harvey, they were 14 laps from home, and Hobson also with an engine. He was 15 laps from home as well. Exactly right. We've got Will Devonish down in the pit lane, who, well, it was an eventful race for you, mate, but your consistency won out in the end. You qualified well, and you had some challenges at certain parts of the race, but they all fell away. Oops, be quiet. I can hear him, but I can't make out the words. We caught that. We caught microphone might be dead. But yeah, we'll assume that you're very pleased indeed with the result. Anyway, turning our attention to the race winner, Shane Chancellor. Shane, you had a pretty good start, and that was pretty much the dream run for you.
Yeah, actually, I was pretty happy with the start. Bit of stuff happening behind me, but saw Hobbo was catching me, and I was like, I was pretty worried about that. But I know what happened with him, but he dropped off, obviously. Yes, another engine issue for Brenton Hobson, costing him a lot of points. So obviously he was pushing very hard indeed to try and close that gap to you. Yeah, it was. I started to even it out a little bit with the traffic and stuff, so that was promising. But yeah, it was a good track to have a good run around with the back markers and try and get through some pretty tight spots. Absolutely. Well, race 2, we assume Hobson will be back, and you'll be starting another qualifying session shortly. What do you think you can do in race 2? I'll be happy to be up the front. I know Hobbo's going to be quick, so if I can stick with him, I'll be happy. There we go. Well, wish you the best of luck in race 2, and congratulations on a fantastic race win. In fact, that was the Grand Shalom, I think. Pole position, fastest lap, led every lap, and a race win.
Cheers, boys. See you after the next one.
Cheers. Whenever, what are your takeaways from race 1?
Well, a lot of action, especially in the turn 1 and 2 gravel trap saw quite a few victims. And I dare say it's probably still going to see a few more victims. But in terms of sublime drives, the respective winners in Pro AB and Pro Am, you couldn't fault them. So Shane Chancellor drove away from the field, and Big Dog, he kept his nose clean, and even when it closed up right around the pit stop time, he managed to get his head back down again and get going, and by the end of the checkered flag, he was a comfortable winner as well. So comfortable victories for the 2 respective class winners.
Certainly, and with that win for Big Dog, he did miss the first round of this championship, but a 4th, a 2nd, and now a win. He may well be stamping his credentials on this championship as a potential championship winner.
Yeah, he's building a nice little portfolio of form, isn't he, in the last couple of races? So some very strong results there, better and better and better again. So he's certainly putting himself up there. Now he's gotten to the top step of the podium. He'll be wanting to keep himself there, won't he?
No doubt about that. And it was an eventful race for Luke Joyner, but he did what he needed to do, and he does have that race win from the first race in Albert Park and a couple of second places in Sandown. He's looking pretty strong too.
Yeah, and we've known that he's had some good, even in the class that he runs in, his consistency has been what's held him in good stead as well. I think we saw it in, actually, which series was it, Stez? I think it might have been the GT series, where he came, I think it was either 1st or 2nd in class without actually ever having won a race or stood on the top step of the podium.
Yeah, that was the Porsches in the Super Series, yeah. So he's actually the defending champion in this particular category, because this is Super Series, albeit in a different car. But he is the Pro-Am champion, defending champion in that category. So it's up to the others to take it off him at the moment.
No, it certainly is. Well, we've just advanced into qualifying 2 for race number 2. And Brock Harvey's just managed to get himself back into the server. I was a bit worried for a minute there because a few guys did leave the session before the race was over. So I think it was Brendan Ross had left, and I'm just trying to work out who the 3rd person was that had left as well, because Brock Harvey had gone, he's come back in, and Cracker was the other one as well. So we haven't seen a reappearance from Cracker just yet.
Well, Shane Chancellor is at the head of the grid, and look who's behind him. Brenton Hobson. So,
well, this is kind of like playing mind games, isn't it, Stairs? Because Hobson usually likes to be the first one out the pit gate and onto the track, and Shane with his win is just, I think, just trying to get into the psyche a little bit here, saying, well, I won the last race, and now I'm at the head of the queue to get out, so it's kind of catch me if you can, Brenton.
Well, I think Hobson will have his own mind game going on just a little bit. He'll be unsettled by the fact that he's blown another engine up, and it was something that characterized much of the V8 Supercar series and the first Super Series. Nearly cost him nearly cost him the Super Series. Actually, didn't actually nearly cost him the Super Series because he won that by over 100 points, but it certainly kept the V8 Supercar Championship points tight, and he certainly doesn't want that to cost him here, but it's already done that in race 1 tonight.
Yeah, most definitely. And interesting you mentioned about the blowing of the engines as well. What I had noticed coming out of the practice session, especially around the tighter turns, is that, especially the last turn, a number of drivers were actually going down probably to a lower gear than what they probably actually should have been. And some of the guys were trying to punch off the last turn in 2nd gear when it was actually probably should have been punching off in 3rd gear. So it wouldn't surprise me if a few drivers are coming down one too many gears than they should be in some of the turns, hence the reason for the blown engines.
Yeah, it's perhaps the unique characteristics of this circuit that it's awkward for some of the corners are at just that kind of speed that you ideally want to be at a certain gear, as Brenton Hobson completely ruins that lap, and turn 1 proving to be incredibly difficult for people to get right tonight.
Yeah, 1 and 2 are the big challenge. You go wide at 1, put your wheels on the grass, and you're a passenger all the way to the turn 2 wall.
That's exactly right. Now I'm just trying to restore my live timing, which seems to have deserted me for a moment, but doesn't look like we've got any times on the board as yet, which won't be long.
Well, the first one's going to come from Shane Chancellor when it does come, so he's about halfway through his lap at the moment. Actually coming up to turn 10 and 11.
Well, he's done a purple first sector down in the 19s, and again another purple sector in the middle sector. So he's coming around the final corner now. This will be some benchmark, I should think, coming across the line to set a 1 minute 10.9. We know he's got a lot of faster. He's got a lot more time in him. Done close to 10.5s in the first qualifying session.
No, that's exactly right. His 10.5 was the quickest lap of first qualifying session. He went within a couple of tenths during the race session as well, Shane Chancellor. But just looking behind him as well, Matt Williams, 1.1 seconds behind. Hobson's time definitely not really representative of what we know he's capable of back there as well. And Topher setting the early benchmark for Pro-Am.
Absolutely right. So we'll see what Big Dog has to say about that, because obviously he's been pretty quick, and he jumps up into third place, which is pole position in Pro-Am.
Certainly is.
Great job for him. Shane Chancellor coming across the line again. He's set 2 purple sectors again, and this will be well down into the 10s. Oh, that's brilliant. 10.4. Whoo, that's quick.
My oh my. Sets a good benchmark. Hobson's coming around the last corner now. He's actually quite some distance off of top time. He has a 15.0, so still yet to find his feet here, Hobson. But got plenty of time on the clock still to do it.
Matt Williams is the only other representative time that's been set in the Pro AB class.
Yeah,
which is why
Pro AB guys are taking their time to set themselves a lap. Like Dwayne Davies is just on an outlap now. Foley and Boak are on flyers.
I've got
Jamie
words
coming across the time
on the ground that some of the guys in Pro AB are planning to attack qualifying more like a shootout with 1 lap, just to set their fastest lap. And the gentlemen involved in that are Foley, Boak, Dwayne, Williams and Snow, which means that there won't be a lot of
stable.
There won't be a lot of, yes, it is the FCR and PBF stables. They won't have too many chances to make a mistake there. If they catch traffic, for example, on one of their laps, that'll be it.
That's right. I was just about to allude to that. It's just they're going to have to time their runs absolutely perfectly, as Boak's just set from PBF set his times of 12.1, and that's 1.6 seconds off the top time. Hobson actually had set in 1 minute 11 then, but he'd been pinged for a track violation, so he goes again.
He got a fastest middle sector. What this does mean is that people like Hobson and Chancellor will have a little bit more free track. I'm not sure about this idea of doing a shootout style qualifying session while no one else is. I don't mind watching a shootout type qualifying event, but not if half of the field are doing qualifying the normal way.
No, it's a bit unusual. I mean, there must be a logical reason behind it, but I can't think of a logical reason, to be honest with you, Stairs.
Oh.
Snow around the last corner now, but this is not going to be a representative time for him. And in actual fact, there was a track violation again. So, again, a few people still falling victim to these track violations at various points around the circuit.
So does he go again, or is that his lap?
No, Snow's going again. He hasn't set a time. I guess they're going to go until they set a lap, aren't they? Set 1 official lap,
well,
and that's the end of it.
You quite easily bugger up your lap and then, oh, whoops, I cut that corner. I have to go again, guys, sorry.
Yes, that's a bit of tongue-in-cheek, isn't it?
But we've certainly, I mean, you and I are quite familiar with this kind of qualifying format doing top 10 shootouts in Apex Rear Wing land, and it does put the pressure on when you've just got one lap, and a track cut does mean that you start from the back of the grid. It can certainly change the way that a race transforms if you bugger up your lap.
That's right. It's literally one bite at the cherry. It doesn't matter how many ways you want to cut it. You know, that lap is your lap, and if you don't get it right, you know, it's curtains for you, back of the grid effectively. It's a fine line, I guess, as well, Steds, about how hard you push. You know, everybody wants that elusive pole position as Snow sets 12.3. That's good enough for 5th in class at the moment. But that's that fine line of how hard do you want to push? Do you really want the pole, or do you just want to get as times in a shootout style thing where you've got more than sort of 10 cars? You just want to put it on the grid in a respectable place, so you'll prefer to keep it on the track rather than push. The good guys will push and challenge for the front, and the other guys will just be content to do the best that they possibly can in the cleanest fashion.
Definitely. I mean, from my experience, when you try to go all out on a lap and you try and get pole position, those are the times where you end up starting from the back of the grid because you make a mistake. The times where I've ended up on pole position in a race have tended to always happen when I was just trying to consolidate and set a clean lap and get a solid position to start the race from, and everyone else has made mistakes.
It comes back to that whole point of smooth is fast, isn't it? That you're smooth and you're precise with your lines, you tend to be a little bit happier and a little bit more satisfied, and tend to find yourself in a little bit better starting position than you otherwise would if you're pushing on the ragged edge. Hobson only half a second off of pole through 2 sectors, so this will be good enough to move him onto the front row at this rate. He's got traffic.
That's going to cost him. He's got Big Dog at the worst possible moment through the middle of the final corner, and I don't think he would have got any sort of a toe.
Yeah, he lost 2 tenths in that final sector to Chancellor, but still good enough to move up to the front row and actually moves clear. Look at the difference, Des. He's 7 tenths of a second behind Chancellor, but he's 6 tenths of a second clear of Davies. So that's the gaps that we're talking here in terms of the top 1st and 2nd place cars, and then the rest.
Yeah, it's.
In actual fact, look at 3rd through to 6th, or through to 7th even as well. There's only half a second separating 5 cars.
Now, it's interesting. You tend to see bigger gaps when people are only doing one lap, just because there's, you know, everyone's errors are laid out to bear there, and it's not everyone chipping away at their best possible time. I would have expected to see Will Devonish a bit further up, considering where he started in race 1, and he's not part of this crew of people who are just doing one lap dash, and but maybe he's had traffic. He hasn't been able to lay down a marker that's indicative of what we saw in the first qualifying session.
Well, that's a better time through first 2 sectors as well. So he's over half a second up on his PB, 7 tenths down on the pole man. So
ought to do it for him.
This will move him up to row 2. Oh, gets right out close to the wall as well.
But didn't glance at Nether. That was just beautifully done. 3rd position.
Yep. Row 2. Job well done. Brock Harvey still at the back of the train as well, and he's been playing slideys through the infield, so he's yet to really set a lap truly representative of what he's capable of. But here he goes. He's got 5 minutes on the clock to set himself a decent lap.
And in Pro-Am, Big Dog remains at the top of the tree, and he has a bigger margin than he had in the first qualifying session. It's over a second to Luke Joyner, who is doing very well in 2nd place there. So he didn't qualify terribly well for race 1. We did see that he finished the race in 2nd place, which was fantastic for him, but now he's qualified in 2nd, so he gives himself an even greater chance for a fantastic result in Pro-Am tonight in race 2.
That margin between Joyner and Big Dog is quite staggering, isn't it, Stairs? Look, it's a 16.2 to a 17.4 in terms of lap time. I mean, the 17.4, the 17s is what Big Dog was doing in race pace compared to his qualifying time of 16.2 for a Pro-Am in the Lancer R's. That's a mega lap.
Yeah, no, I think our praise of Big Dog was well placed earlier on. He's really coming good when it matters, and goodness only knows where he would be points wise if he'd actually raced at Sandown. But there's certainly enough time left in this championship for for him to push towards the pointy end.
Yep. Harvey finally sets himself a decent lap. He's done a 14.4. It's still back of class. He's still got time on his side, but at least his time is a bit more respectable now.
Yes. Obviously didn't get a representative lap time in prior to that.
And got traffic as well on this tour as well, so going to have to take an opportunity to see himself another lap.
Well, Brenton Foley's still in the pit lane. He's waiting till the very last moment to do his one and only lap, which is a risky strategy, I would have thought. Brenton Hobson within 2/10 of Shane Chancellor.
Yeah, well, Foley's going to have to make a move probably within the next minute if he's going to want to get out and do another lap, because Harvey's going out to try and get at least 2 more bites in. But yeah, Foley would want to have to time this extraordinarily well. Like, now would probably be the perfect time to start getting out of the pit lane, given where the traffic is placed around the track. But if he leaves it too late, he's going to... Here he comes now, actually. So
well, the middle sector at the moment is completely empty. So just Shane Chancellor coming into it now. But basically, there's a large portion of the track that is open. And if you can strategically place your car, that of course precludes anyone coming out of the pits while you do your out lap. But if you can perfectly put your car into that empty part of the track, then you'll have a clean run.
Yep, well, Foley has come out behind Mike Coulston as well, but already focusing very, very hard on getting tyres up to temp, brakes up to temp, and getting ready for his one and only shot at moving up the grid. What do you reckon, Stairs? Let's put some predictions on this. Where do you think Foley's going to end up? I'm going to say probably it's either going to be P4 or 5, just judging by the fact he's got the pace, but I think he's leaving his run a bit too late.
Yeah, I think he's badly placed on the track. He's got 3 cars potentially that he could catch on his lap, and that empty part of the track that I mentioned is nowhere near it. And he's trying to space himself back a bit, letting those cars past, but he's got to let him he's got to let the closest one in front of him be about 5 or 10 seconds up the road, and that's if they don't make a mistake. And then if someone else doesn't come out in front now, having said that, you've got to be on the track now if you want to get another lap in.
Yeah, well, Chancellor was behind him doing the same thing, so Foley didn't really have to get out of the way of Chancellor there. But this is interesting because now he's going to sort of, I guess, follow him around the circuit. So Chancellor probably wake up some of the Pro AB guys ahead if he ends up catching them, which they might get to the back of Joyner, but it'll be touch and go.
Yeah, Luke Joyner's just coming towards turn 1 now, and yeah, I think they will catch him before. Oh, actually, it looked like Luke Joyner stopped on the track, so that's all of a sudden made it a lot more likely that they'll get through this lap cleanly. Mike Coulston's the next car up the road, and he's about 2 or 3 corners ahead of them.
Well, early predictions, Foley's done a 19.5 through Sector 1. He's only 2/10 off the pole time, so this is going to be interesting to see how he handles the middle sector. The middle sector is the longest of all 3 sectors.
Now Hobson's improved his time, but not enough. He's half a tenth off Shane Chancellor, so he'll have one more go. There's about 10 seconds left when he crossed the line.
Yep. Foley, I just saw as well, took a bit of grass as well through, I think it might have been turn 8, so I'm hoping he hasn't been penalised for a track violation there, because it's gone 0. He's 1.1 seconds down now, so that's a lot of time for
4 wheels off the track.
Chancellor's got flames going from the back of his car through the last turn, but it's only qualifying, so lucky boy.
Absolutely pushing it there, and unfortunately he was kind of on the line that cars like
Foley's abandoned the lap, Stairs, so
he must have track cut. He must have track cut.
That's the penalty you pay when you try and do things like this, and he's going to be rear of grid.
Well, Brenton Hobson's on a lap, and now he's destroyed the lap oh goodness, he's destroyed his car now. So
that's a horrible accident there on the exit of turn 9.
Now, what a bizarre end to the qualifying session. We saw Hobson crash in pursuit of Shane Chancellor. Shane Chancellor blew his engine up trying to improve on a 10.4. Brenton Foley didn't end up setting a lap, and we'll start from the back of the grid. And when Big Dog remains quite comfortably in pole position, Luke Joyner wasn't able to make any impression at all on his time.
No, certainly not. It's a very, very odd qualifying session, especially with the the rumour surrounding flying laps turning out to be true.
Yeah, a strange strategy, it has to be said. And Brenton Foley maintaining that what Jamie Snow did in doing 2 laps was cheating. But, I mean, cheating within the rules of their game that they've made up within their own stable, because it's perfectly fine within the confines of this qualifying session where there are unlimited laps.
That's right. Whatever games they want to play, they can play. All we're interested in is where they qualify on the grid. So if they get it right, they get it right. But in this case, some of them did, some of them didn't.
Exactly right. Well, we'll take a quick break. Hopefully we won't need to take as many breaks as we did before race 1. But on the other side, Nether will grab your predictions.
We will.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, just waiting.
And it's lights out and away we go. It's a great start from Sebastian Vettel. Wink up off the inside. McLaughlin gets it to They run, but the Red Bull Racing man has got through. The champion's done the job. They're all gone. They're all gone. Tanner's off. McLaughlin's off.
Make room. Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. There's another 7-time champ. Jimmy Johnson wins his 7th NASCAR Sprint Cup championship.
Welcome back, everybody, to Oran Park. It's the calm before the storm, because we've had race 1, we've had qualifying for the second race, and we've got a little over 8 minutes before the start of race number 2, and we've got a few cars out on track at the moment. The pole sitter again will be Shane Chancellor. Brenton Hobson did all he could, but in the end fell just short, half a tenth of a second. Was not able to overhaul Shane Chancellor's pole position time. Shane Chancellor in a very strong position going into this second race. He said he was worried about Hobson's pace in race 1, but he seemed to have it all in hand before Brenton Hobson blew his engine up. And that is surely weighing on his mind again. Hot spots in race 1 was turn 1 and 2. We saw a lot of people go off there. Dwayne Davies on the first corner. Cracker ended his race there. Brenton Foley, and that was just to name a few. So there's no briefing for the Super Series races, even though we do have a compulsory pit stop in each of these races. But it's basically free reign. As soon as warm-up starts, they can head out onto the track, do whatever they like. It might be practice start, practice pit in. Oh, big crash under the bridge there with Jamie Snow involved. Might try and catch a replay with that. Maybe it wasn't Jamie Snow, it was a blue car. I thought for a moment it might have been Jamie Snow. That was Jamie Snow, and Philip Oak looking like that was intentional. And Brenton Foley, I beg your pardon. It was one of the PBF race engineering cars. So you can even practice your crashing in this, in these moments prior to the race beginning. So we talked before the break about making predictions. Nether, are you back?
I certainly am.
What are you expecting for race 2?
Well, in Pro AB, I'm actually kind of expecting Brenton Hobson to start to put a little bit of pressure early on Shane Chancellor and maybe try and force maybe a different way about strategy with how things went in the last race. So Shane Chancellor sort of split the race in half last time. So I think that Hobson will probably be trying to see if he can maybe force him into some sort of pit stop where he doesn't want to actually take it. But that being said, if Chancellor gets the same sort of start that he did last time, then he'll probably march away from the field. And I'm kind of expecting more of the same with Big Dog and Luke Joyner in Pro-Am, although I would like to see if Topher can replicate what he did in race number 1, just not the accident at the final turn.
Yeah, if not for that accident, Topher was looking pretty strong. It has to be said. His pace was good, and he did recover. Good, oh my. Jamie Snow, don't know what he's doing. He's on his roof.
Yeah, pirouetting on the outside.
There. That's not ideal, but he's obviously trying something out. Perhaps just figuring out what things don't work for the race.
Well, certainly spinning on your roof is not going to win you any points or win you any races, more importantly.
Might win your style points with El Chifo.
Well, here we go, gridding up, commencing. Hobson already rolling forward.
Yeah, a little bit of a slope heading downhill on this circuit.
Yeah, it's a downhill run to turn number 1, and then it sort of flattens out, and then when you get up and over the bridge between turns 5 and 6, then it starts to sort of just gradually climb back up the hill.
Now it appears we've lost Brock Harvey in the break there, so he's not taking the grid for race 2.
He was out of 8th, out of 8th place there, so there will be a gap.
So technical dramas besetting him. So we thought he had the issues solved, and it's also as Scott Nolan didn't make the second race either, trying to get it solved, but wasn't able to make it tonight for race 1. But now they take us through the grid.
Well, here we go. Shane Chancellor, race 1 winner, holds pole for race number 2 as well, but poles for both races. Brenton Hobson won't be starting from the back of the grid this time around. He's on the front row, but got some work to do. Will Devonish and Dwayne Davies make up row 2, both having, or Devonish had a good run in race 1. Davies recovered in race 1. Matt Williams kept his act together for a decent result in race number 1. He starts out at 5th place, and Phil Boak, who's had a spin.
Oh no,
on
he's lost his
lap
bonnet.
Number 1. Yeah, and bonnet gone as well, so that's not looking very good for Boak, and actually gone back to the pit, so could start pit lane.
I think he will, because otherwise he would have had a very damaged car.
Yes, Jamie Snow starts out at P7, and actually, that's right, Foley bought it, so he'll be at the back of grid. So that promotes Big Dog up into 8th place by virtue of the fact we've lost Brock Harvey. So your first year Pro-Am runners is Big Dog. Luke Joyner will be on row number 5 with Mike Coulston. Better result for Coulston, having started back of grid race 1. Topher starting from the pit lane along with Boak, so he's out of P11. So be a gap at P11. Gary Neville, row 6 in 12th place. And the rest of your field is Cam Rutledge and Brian Walsh on row 7. Glenn Miles and Brenton Foley, who did not set a time, on row 8.
Well, it's already, the race hasn't started and it's already a very bizarre race. Brenton Hobson has gone well past his pit box, his grid box on the starting line.
He's got himself sorted now though, which is good.
He has.
Just waiting for the last to get into position. And
a few empty spots. As we mentioned, we've lost Philip Oak, and we're about to get going for race number 2, and it's a pretty even start at the front of the line. Shane Chancellor will have the inside going into turn 1, and behind it's Dwayne Davies once again with a fantastic start, up into 3rd place ahead of Will Devonish there, but it's Shane Chancellor in the lead of this race. Everyone cleanly through turn 1 so far. Nothing to speak of in terms of cars going off, but look, we just lost the feed there for him. It's Shane Chancellor leading the field through Dwayne Davies comfortably there in 3rd place. So Will Devonish has got a job to do,
And Jamie Snow up into 5th place. Meanwhile, at the back of the grid, Brenton Foley has made his way up into 7th place already.
Yep, and Boak and Boak and Topher have been released from the pits as well, so not that far behind the pack, but still got some work to do. Hobson staying close to Chancellor in front. Was a very, very even start off the front, but Chancellor just got a little bit better secondary start and obviously held the inside line into turn 1 as well, and Hobson gave him the room.
Yeah, guys at the back have got a lot of work to do. It's a huge punishment starting from the pit lane because you have to wait for them to clear the first sector, and actually better this track than a longer track because it's such a short first sector, but nonetheless it still means they're about 10 seconds behind the field. But Boak now cut that to 5 seconds to the first of the Pro-Am runners that he'll have to overtake in Glenn Miles.
Yes, and Chancellor already doing everything down the main straight on the end of the first lap to try and break the slipstream
Dwayne
that
Davies
Brenton Hobson was trying to tow out of.
Will Devonish and Dwayne Davies are side by side, and Jamie Snow, I think, got into the back of Will Devonish there, just outbroke himself a little bit, and Dwight Davies has held on to 3rd place for the time being.
Yeah, he didn't get in. Oh, yeah, he did give Will Devonish a little bit of a nudge, but it wasn't too serious. But he's going to have a couple of flat spots on the front end there, Jamie Snow.
That'll be rattling the fillings out of his teeth until he makes his pit stop. And maybe if you're... Oh, actually, who's that coming into the pits? One of the Pro-Am runners by the looks of it. Glenn Miles. Oh, no. No, he's just well off the back. Beg your pardon. It's just the track cutting back on itself. Made me think he was coming into the pits. But Shane Chancellor has got Brenton Hobson all over the back of him as they come through the final corner.
And we've had a change of positions for the lead in Pro-Am as well. Joiners ahead of Big Dog. Coulston right on the back of Big Dog's tail as well. So early change. We saw this early in race 1 as well. And then Big Dog eventually found his way past and drove away. So they're going to have to try and repeat that feat. And down the main straight, he's going to have a little bit of a look here if he gets close enough. Nice slipstream.
He just carried so much speed through that final corner. He's got the inside for turn 1.
Yeah, great exit off of the last turn as well.
Got to get it stopped though, and he's not done it. He's got 2 wheels on the grass, and I thought for a moment that he was sailing into the gravel trap. He is off the track, but that could have been so much worse.
And Boak looking to and just managing to navigate that angry pack as well. All the Pro-Am guys actually, or majority of the Pro-Am guys, actually surprisingly close together. Have a look at them all there, Stairs.
They certainly are. It's all closing up, and this is music to the ears of Luke Joyner, seeing Big Dog going all the way back. One little mistake cost you a lot of positions. Gary Neville's wide as they come through towards the bridge, and that's not gone well. Trying to find him, he's fallen down the hill. Spun it on the right-hander just before the bridge, and there's a fair bit of damage to that car.
Yeah, just having a look to see what happened to him there. Yeah, he got out in the grass going up the hill off of turn 5 towards the bridge, and just around it went to the right and straight into the fence.
That is a nasty-looking Lancer. It's all bent up. Bonnet's missing. I wonder how the handling is. He's got Glenn Miles for company now, and Glenn Miles is just going to drive around the outside of him because they're he's not going to drive around the outside there. You can't get wide. They're not learning, Nether. They're not learning. You can't go around the outside on this track. It spits you off onto the grass.
Yeah, if you put 1 foot wrong on the outside of this track, you end up in a wall or in a gravel trap somewhere. Somewhere along the line, we've lost Brian Walsh, I think, after the first lap or 2 as well. And meanwhile, back out in front, these 2 are glued together.
They certainly are, and Dwayne Davies has been shuffled back to 5th with Will Devonish up onto the podium again, and Jamie Snow in 4th place. But they're side by side through the final corner. Brenton Hobson trying to look down the inside. Shane Chancellor giving him the room, and it's a drag race down. Brenton Hobson has to tuck back into the slipstream because Shane Chancellor got the better exit going down to the first corner. And it would be a brave man to make a move there. Nowhere near close enough. Hobson, I thought he was sailing off into the boonies there. And
Chancellor wide, Chancellor wide.
That's going to give Brenton Hobson an opportunity under the bridge. And Shane Chancellor hangs on to the lead for now.
Yeah, he's got the preferred line here through turn 3. Hobson will look for the over and under, back into it at 4, but not close enough to make the move here. Now it'll be line astern, going through 5 and up the hill, over the bridge and into 6. Meanwhile, a bit further back, Devonish, Snow and Davies all glued together as well, having their own little private battle.
All going under the bridge there. It's Brenton Foley's joined in the act there, so it just really shows that qualifying was not really that important for them, given how close they are on the track in the race itself. So, and that's a very wide moment for Jamie Snow. He holds on to it, and that has given Will Devonish a little bit of breathing room. Dwayne Davies not close enough to make the move with Jamie Snow slow off that corner.
Big Dog in, getting his compulsory pit stop over and done with as well. Stairs very, very early.
Very interesting strategy for Big Dog there.
Probably felt he's pretty, well, he did go wide down at turn 1 and 2 and probably felt he was being held up a little bit. So try and go for that undercut here. He's just got to try and pump the laps in. If I was Luke Joyner, I'd be in this lap.
Well, he was doing quite well up there in the lead, and Big Dog, having dropped quite a few positions and falling out of the lead, having made that mistake, had fought his way back into a podium position before that pit stop, but he'll be looking to jump a few guys with that pit stop. And it kind of helps to disguise your pace when you make a pit stop. The other guys kind of can lose track of where you are exactly, so if you bang out a few laps and they come in the pits, and then as a result they get jumped by you after the pit stops shake out, they can get a bit of a surprise.
That's right. Traffic might come into play here, Stairs, for the race leaders, because they're still glued together, but actually they're going to get Gary Neville right down the straight before turn 1, so they're lucky to get away with this. But
they'll have to move off the racing line, though.
Yeah, Hobson's continuing to harass the back of Shane Chancellor.
Yeah,
Who's going to blink first? Who do you reckon's going to blink first, Stairs?
That's a very good question, and I don't really know if I can answer that, to be honest. Shane Chancellor, I just have a feeling Shane Chancellor would maybe try for an early pit stop, but Hobson will probably follow him in. Yeah, I don't know whether Hobson would have thought about this prior to the race. He'll probably just react to whatever Shane does. So that leads me to believe that Shane's probably the one who would take the initiative when it comes to strategy tonight.
Yeah, I kind of tend to agree. I think that, Shane will just sit there and try and run his own race, and then he'll leave it up to Brenton to, lay down the marker and try and, get the overcut done effectively.
Certainly, but for now, they seem content to run very close together, and I get the feeling that's just Shane's line going a little bit wider through the final corner, because every time we've seen them go through there almost side by side, it looks like he's gone deep and Hobson's snuck up the inside, but they've done that lap after lap, and Chancellor seems to have the drive out of the final corner.
Always seems to be just that fractionally little bit closer, doesn't he, Brenton Hobson, through turns 1 and 2. He closes up quite nicely, but still giving Chancellor plenty of room and plenty of respect, and not rat-a-tat-tat on the bumper bar.
Yeah, that'll come later on, I should imagine, if it's still as close as this in the final stages of this race.
Well, we're not even halfway yet. We're only about third distance.
Yeah, lap 8 out of 23. It's going to go before you even blink, I can imagine, but for now, just half a second separating the leaders. If we look at the timing sheets for Pro Am, it's still Luke Joyner leading there, but having not made his pit stop, so Big Dog down in 14th, having been one of the early pit stops in that particular category.
Yeah, I'm just keeping an eye on his times just to see how he's tracking compared to the guys that have not stopped yet. He's holding his own. He's chipping away a little bit here. Hobson's blinking first, so this is interesting.
Well, he makes a liar out of both of us, and goes for the early pit stop. As you say, just past third distance.
Matt Williams in too.
Yeah, Matt Williams coming in. So we saw that he is not afraid of doing a lot of laps on a set of tyres based on what he did in the first race, doing a very long first stint, this time opting for a longer second stint.
Joyner's last lap, Stairs, was an 18, and Big Dog was a 17.4, so actually Joyner's last lap was an 18.9, so Big Dog is starting to eat into this advantage to the tune of about half a second a lap, so as I said, if I was Luke Joyner, I would have been in the minute or the lap after Big Dog was in, and I've got a funny feeling that he's going to get overtaken here. If Big Dog doesn't make any mistakes, he's going to undercut Luke Joyner quite easily.
Absolutely. Track position is key, but maybe he was afraid of doing that many laps on one set of tyres.
Yeah, potentially, but we did see Matt Williams get all the way to just about till the end of the race as well. He got to lap 22 in race number 1 before he came in and got his compulsory pit stop done.
Well, Shane Chancellor,
so it's doable.
So far has not reacted to the early pit stop of Brenton Hobson, and Brenton Hobson is quite enjoying at the moment the clear track that he's got. He's just got 2 lap runners up ahead of him, but he won't catch them for a little while. And Dwayne Davies is also in the pits at the moment.
Just watching the timing sectors as well, Chancellor gained 10th on Hobson that time around.
Well, as long as he's gaining or even just matching Hobson, he'll be happy to stay out.
Yeah. Because
it means he'll have fresher tyres at the end of the race.
Yeah. Chancellor's dynamite through that first sector, and the second sector, I think he. In the third sector is where he gets such better drive out of the last turn, but the gap's now come under 50 seconds finally, so I think it's now starting to swing the way of Brenton Hobson.
Yeah, Chancellor had traffic just then. He caught Luke Joyner and had to back off a little bit through the final corner, and that would have cost him a little bit. But a little bit is important considering how closely fought the battle for the lead is.
Yep. Foley in as well downstairs, so PBF start to blink.
Well, that is a very closely fought battle. So the timing of all these pit stops is going to be decisive in this battle.
Going to be extremely decisive. I mean, they've been very close for quite a long period of time, and they're all starting to finally shake out now. So Foley's in, Folke's gone through, Snow is still going through, Devonish and Snow are still relatively close together. They've got some lap traffic between them, and they're negotiating a bit more traffic as well.
Oh, a little bit, yeah. Quite a lot of traffic.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit over the bridge, and a little bit of a traffic jam, but it's all right. They've got through it. Will Devonish making his way around Cam Rutledge, and Shane Chancellor stays out again. So he's opting to divide this race exactly in half, I think.
Yeah, well, this is definitely swinging the way of Hobson at the moment. He's got that gap down to 48.8, and we know it takes about 50 seconds to get in and out of pits with the stops you want to do. It's a very long, sort of slow pit lane entry as well, and exit stairs too. So this is... Hobson's going to get the undercut here, but the question will be how much is he taking out of those tyres right now, and is he going to have enough left to fight with Chancellor behind him on fresher rubber?
Well, it's a little bit like a Kimi Räikkönen and Lewis Hamilton situation at Monza, with Hobson needing to put in these fast laps now in order to keep Shane Chancellor behind him, but then Shane Chancellor will have the fresher rubber towards the back end of the race, like you say.
That's exactly right, and looks like he might be in this lap along with Will Devonish as well, so Chancellor coming around.
Someone's had a huge crash, we can't see it, but I think there's someone out of the race. I can hear flames, and it's
it looks like
Glenn
it's
Miles. It is Glenn Miles.
Chancellor just went past him between turns 9 and 10.
He stayed out.
Yeah, well, Chancellor's cancelled. Looks like they might have cancelled the pit stop here. So
let's see if he peels off to the right. No, he doesn't.
Staying out.
Which is strange because now there's only 10 laps to go. It doesn't make sense.
I reckon I might know what happened here. I got a funny feeling that they suspected there might have been a safety car coming because of where Miles's car was parked. Devonish is in, so he's reacted. He was looking to come in as well, cancelled it, then reactivated it. So he's back in as Topher takes the last turn a little bit awkwardly. But I got a funny feeling maybe Chancellor suspected a safety car was coming, and that's why he elected to stay out. And that's going to hurt him, and hurt him badly, I think, too, because he's going to have to come in this lap now, which is beyond half distance.
But that doesn't make sense. Even if he, I mean, like if the safety car came out, then he would have been absolutely, he'd be worse off because then the field would condense and he'd lose more positions.
Yeah, I think maybe he was potentially could have been waiting to see if the safety car was coming out, and then you're right. If he had dived for the pits, he would have, been right out there, pretty much behind Brenton Hobson straight away. But because the safety car didn't come out, maybe thought, well, I'm going to get a little bit more of a try and see if I can extend this lap.
He's in now.
This gap out again. Well, here he comes. Deciding moment. The gap was down to 47 seconds. So Hobson right now is coming up and over the bridge.
And this would absolutely feel like an eternity for Shane Chancellor. It remains to be seen whether he is doing something different to Brenton Hobson in regards to the number of tyres that he changes. But for now, he's got to trundle along at near pedestrian speeds. Fully stopped, and Brenton Hobson's coming up to the final corner as we speak. He'll start to see him pop over that crest.
This is easily done. Where's Chance in the minute? He's got the
not even on the move.
Pit box. He's on the move now. Hobson's going to have him easy.
It's going to be closer than I thought, though.
Oh, look at that, Stairs. Gone. That's at least a couple of second gap, probably close to 5 second gap, I would say.
Yeah, but Chancellor's got the fresher rubber by quite a bit now, and to be honest, I thought he'd be further behind, given how much time he was losing there.
Well, let's see the gap settle down, because Hobson and Chancellor have just gone through the first sector split, but we probably won't get a readout until the second sector anyway. That puts Jamie Snow into the lead of the race, but he's also got to stop again. So too Phil Boak. So that's first and second. And here they come. Snow in.
Snow's in, and we would expect to see Boak in following exactly the same way Jamie Snow just did.
Yep, so it looks like they're preparing at PBF to receive the number 15 car, and here it comes.
It's a curious strategy, this extending
Hobson off the road, Stairs. Hobson's off the road. Sorry to cut you off. Hobson's gone off the road between turns 9 and 10.
And that has cost him. That has cost him the position to Shane Chancellor. Yeah, he's just slid around, pushing those tyres. The temperatures will be well up, and I just get the feeling maybe he did push those tyres a little bit too high. The temperatures were up. He still has to make it to the end of the race. There's still 8 laps to go, but he's got it all to do now, because now Shane Chancellor is ahead of him and with fresher tyres.
He actually dropped his right rear corner on the grass there too, Stairs, on the approach to turn 9. So that's what sent him around. And we've been talking about when you put a tyre loose on some of the grass, it does spit you out. We've seen Gary Neville have that on the run up to the bridge. Spat him out and into a wall, and nearly did that for Hobson too, but superior car control kept it on and away from the walls, but has surrendered position, and now finds himself within a second of Shane Chancellor, but with all that hard work.
Oh, he's done it again. Same place.
Really? Wow, that was car control. But he realised what was going on there, and realised, oh, hang on, I could get out of this if I just turn my wheel this way, and managed to get out of it. But another hairy moment.
Well, he just set the fastest lap of the race. He'd done a 10.7, and he was absolutely in a league of his own at that moment. Say league of his own, it was 10.8 was what Shane Chancellor's fastest lap was, only a tenth off, but nonetheless, Hobson was the fastest guy on the track, and just pushing a little bit too hard.
Got very close to that outside of the track too, between 1 and 2 as well. So I worry that he has taken a little bit too much out of these tyres. But if we know Brenton Hobson, then he's going to find a way. He always seems to find a way when the chips are down to close that gap and make something out of nothing.
He's found 3/10 on this sector alone on Shane Chancellor. So either Shane made a mistake or Hobson is just that much stronger through the first sector. We're coming up now to the part of the track where Hobson seems to struggle at, and that's where Shane Chancellor pulls the advantage back. But the first sector is Hobson's, and Hobson's alone. Well, he's got through this one cleanly, and I think Shane, if anything, was sliding more than Hobbo.
Yeah, that was a much better approach from Hobson as well. Local yellow flag somewhere, just looking to see where it is, but it's in the final sector somewhere. Can't see where it is at the minute. We've got a car off track somewhere, I'd imagine.
This is not over. Shane Chancellor is driving in his mirrors, I think. He's just making little mistakes, and Brenton Hobson's got that carrot dangled in front of him.
He certainly does. Looking back through the field as well, Devonish is driving a bit of a lonely race in 3rd, so too Matt Williams in 4th, and Snow in 5th. But then you've got Boak, Foley and Davies are all relatively close together in the Battle of the Minor, the final placings in Pro AB. Big Dog's found his way back to the top of the pile in Pro-Am as well, and he's got 2 seconds on Luke Joyner, so that early pit stop and the undercut for Big Dog has worked quite nicely.
Great strategy from Big Dog, and with the pit stops shaking out there, Mike Coulston's doing very well in 3rd place there.
Certainly is. He's driven a much better race, having qualified.
Oh, he's off! Hobson's off again, and into the wall, and that is the end of his chance for victory today.
That is a uncharacteristic Hobson-like mistake. He's been flirting with that corner several times. That one was worse. He had both wheels off in the grass, and looks like he's lost a bit of bodywork damage there as well. He's got himself going. Has he got himself going again?
He does. We're just waiting to see how the car handles, whether he can actually continue like this. It looks as though he will be able to, but he can't be too careful because... Well, he has to be careful, I should say, because Will Devonish is only about 5 seconds behind him. And
he's got to bring it home.
He can't afford a pit. Yeah, he can't afford to make a pit stop. He's just got to bring it home, yeah.
Big dent in that front right corner of the car as well. Still smoking it up on the exit of turn number 2, but yeah, just all about, he knows the race. There's no point trying to challenge for the race. He's just got to slow and steady, bring it home. He's got 4 seconds on Will, and that looks like it's pretty stable at the moment, but he's still got 4.5 laps to do. So he can't rest on his laurels, but he can't afford to take any risks either.
Well, he'll drop points to Shane Chancellor, and before this race he had a 7-point advantage. That will be cut 4 points if he finishes in second. As there is 15 points for Shane Chancellor in first place and 12 points for Brenton Hobson in second place. So just 3 points separates a win and a second place, but he's got to bring it home. So that's the first task.
Joyner in the pit Stairs. I'm not sure if he's actually had done his compulsory pit stop, but he's in the pits. And
that feels unscheduled.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's unscheduled or not, or whether he made a mistake or something somewhere, but he's in the pit lane, and that gives Big Dog, pretty much hands him the race victory completely in Pro-Am. Coulston up to second, Rutledge up to third,
yeah.
Joyner's currently fourth, and look, Gary Neville's a minute 20 behind, so Joyner should get out and hold down fourth place comfortably, but a bit strange.
Well, either he hadn't made his pit stop, but we assumed he had because he'd made an error early in the race, or it's an unscheduled second stop. Either way, it's very costly for Luke Joyner, because it looked like, well, the man who was leading at one stage in this particular race, the category, and now he's not even on the podium.
No, and dropped a fistful of points as well, the defending champ in Pro-Am.
Very strange. So it's been a weird race from start to finish. Uncharacteristic mistakes from Brenton Hobson. But we did have a scintillating battle for the lead for a while.
We did. That gap is slowly coming down 2 Stairs. It's down to 3.2 seconds. Devonish will have sight of Hobson as well and be, what? So in his cockpit, be like, what? Really? I've got a chance to get past Hobson? And he's going to have, what, 4 laps to do it. 4 laps to find 3.2 seconds and get past the number 1.
Yeah, Luke Joyner hit a wall apparently. That's the word coming through, so that's why he's lost all of that time. And Brenton Hobson can probably sympathise, and nursing damage, he is dropping time to Will Devonish. Will Devonish on the previous lap took 0.2 of a second out of him.
Taken 0.3 out this as well. It's down to 2.9 now.
And you're right, he'll start to see that Synergy Sim Racing car up ahead of him, and there's nothing that incentivizes a driver more than a carrot dangled in front of them.
Yeah, especially with a second place on offer and a nice bag of points to boot. I mean, third place points is nothing to be frowned upon, but the more points the better. And it's scooted back out to 3.1 that through the second sector.
Brenton Hobson, if he finished third tonight with a Shane Chancellor victory, he would still be in the lead of the championship, but by just 2 points. It's very, very, very tight. And Jamie Snow with a drive-through penalty, so that one surely would be for corner cutting as well.
Yeah, he's already done his compulsory pit stop. He's coming in to serve it straight
away.
Hobson
off! Hobson off! And that's going to allow Will Devonish right through. Well, we got lap traffic in the way as well. Will Devonish wasn't actually as close as I thought he was there, but now it's
well, the gap is going to be visual. There is Will Devonish in the background there, and Brenton Hobson is really struggling with the handling of that car.
Yeah, something's not right there. Uncharacteristic mistakes from the champ. It's race 2 has not been very, very kind to him, and hopefully this is not a defining moment in the championship for Brenton Hobson in terms of, you know, Shane Chancellor having 2 race victories and pretty much showing a clean pair of heels all day. But he's now got some work to do, Hobbs. He's still got 2 laps to go as well. Joyner is ahead of them on track, so we'll get out of the way down the straight, one would assume.
Yeah, they should be able to overhaul him with the top speed advantage those Lancer RSs have, and Luke Joyner sensibly diving to the inside of the track to allow Hobson through around the outside. This was the corner that brought Hobson unstuck on the previous lap, and it's caught so many people out during tonight's events. They've gone sailing off into the grass, and he negotiates it safely there, but Devonish is so close.
Jamie Snow was a 4th place before he came in for his drive-through. He's dropped all the way down to 8th, so he's last in class. He's the last of the classified pro AM runners.
It's unfortunate. It was a really strong run as Hobson goes wide again, and he's kept it on the track, but Devonish has taken the opportunity. Did not need a second invitation, and he's got the inside through the next corner, and Hobson's going to have to give that one up, but no, he's going to dive it down the inside. No, he's not. It's Will Devonish, and he's going to park that car on the apex. There's no way he's going to give Brenton Hobson an opportunity to go back through without an almighty fight.
Yeah, well defended by Will. Got up the inside, capitalised on Hobson's mistake, placed the car absolutely perfectly. Like,
oh, up the he's opened the door.
Will's let him through.
He has.
He needed to park that car on the inside there, but Will will probably have a run at him here down into turn number 1 if he can make it stick. I was going to say, Will defended very, very well. Placed the car exactly where it needed to be, but not on the last turn.
Well, he's seen how weak Hobson can be in this corner. He's gone off there several times before, but Hobson is not letting him through. He's not going to open that door, and the complicating factor is the lap traffic here.
You can watch that battle because Shane Chancellor's down.
Oh, he's in. Will Devonish has gone up the inside, and Hobson's been almost pushed off the track there. He may well argue that he was pushed off the track, but Will was probably saying, well, I was up alongside and you turned in on me, but nonetheless, it's Will Devonish who is up into 2nd place, and it's round 2. We're actually on the final lap of the race, so we'll go forward to watch Shane Chancellor coming across the line. He's won the race, but who is going to emerge victorious in this battle for 2nd place? Will Devonish sliding his way through there. He's not going to open the door for the final corner, or is he? He surely wouldn't. There's 1 corner to go, and it's up the inside. Goes Brenton Hobson. No, he doesn't. Oh, but has Will Devonish overcooked it? It's an unfortunate camera angle. It's very difficult to see, but he's lost the position. Up through the inside goes Brenton Hobson, and a champion move on the last corner with a limping car, and Will Devonish relegated to 3rd. Brenton Hobson up into 2nd.
Well, Will tried to defend the line into turn 12, but just pushed it a little bit too hard, and the car understeered toward the wall, and he had to gather it up to avoid hitting the wall, and it was enough for the champ to strike back and reclaim 2nd place, but he certainly had to earn it those last few laps. He, and as we said, uncharacteristic mistakes, and he had a battle on his hands very, very quickly.
Well, Will was so adamant that he was not going to open the door, and there was no way that he was going to give the inside line to Brenton Hobson, but in doing that, he just went a little bit deep, and that was all that Hobson needed to sneak up the inside and take that position back. And we've got to say, great job to Big Dog winning 2 races tonight and stamping his authority on his bid towards a championship tilt in the Pro-Am category. So we watch Jamie Snow doing a massive jump. Mike Coulston with 2nd place. Great result for him in the Pro-Am category.
Hats off to Cam Rutledge as well. Solid 3rd, so good to see some new guys on the podium as well. Luke Joyner recovered to finish 5th after that unscheduled 2nd stop after hitting the wall. So, you see, I think, was that driving the wrong way up the pit lane?
Well, he was ahead of Gary Neville, so he lost further positions.
He certainly did. I think maybe Topher was going up the pit lane the wrong direction just to do some funky stuff. But anyway, but nonetheless, 2 race wins for big dog. 2 race wins for Shane Chancellor, and a nice bag of points for both gentlemen towards their respective championships.
Absolutely right. Well, Shane, you had a front row seat to a pretty good battle there between yourself and Brenton Hobson. Tell us how it went down from your perspective.
Hey boys, yeah, I knew it was going to be on, and as I predicted it was. So I knew that if I could just keep him in front of me, it's pretty hard to pass around there. And yeah, when he pitted early, I knew that I could just keep pushing on a bit more and try and have some really good tyres at the end.
So that seemed to be your strategy. You looked like you were pushing that first stint as long as you could with the pace that you had, so that you would have the fresher rubber. Were you worried that he was taking too much time out of you while that was happening towards the end of the first stint?
Yes and no. I had a pretty good run with traffic, so I knew I was going to be either just in front of him or just behind him, and as it turned out, I was behind him. But I knew I was going to have the fresher rubber for the end.
Well, and
I made a couple of mistakes and I went past.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, it certainly worked out in that regard. And then in his bid to repass you, he went off the track. So in doing that, you must have breathed a sigh of relief.
I was a bit, because it was round 2, and then I was waiting for round 3 to come. But unfortunately, he spun off and hit the wall.
There you go. Well, congratulations on 2 well-deserved victories. And I think he took fastest lap off you in that second race, but you started from pole position, so a handy night of results for you all round.
Yeah,
and
pretty happy with that.
Absolutely. In spinning off and hitting the wall, he became Will Devonish's problem. And Will, tell us about that battle in the closing stages.
Yeah, I couldn't believe my eyes when Hobbo came into being 20 seconds away to 3, so saw him having a few mistakes, so tried to take advantage of that, but couldn't seal the deal at the last turn.
Yeah, it looked like you were adamant you didn't want him to come up the inside, but just went a little bit deep.
Yeah, admittedly, I had a bit of a cheeky move, turn 3, same lap, so probably well-deserved. More of a well-deserved second place for Hobbo for that.
There you go. Well, 2 podium positions tonight. You're on a hot run of form at the moment with a good start to this particular series and the Porsche Cup last week.
Yeah, watch this space.
Watch this space. Well, there you have it, Nether. Watch this space.
Well, indeed, we will be watching this space because it's not even halfway through the season yet, but like a sphincter tightening in an awkward moment, it is championship-defining things with points advantages shrinking after tonight's pair of races.
Very good. Speaking of sphincter-tightening moments, we've got the WEC series coming up on Sunday with round 5 now. Nether back-to-back races for the Endurance Championship. This time Silverstone as we continue the European leg of that particular championship.
Yeah, certainly back-to-back races for first time, and it's probably the third of the 3 most iconic tracks on the European calendar, and certainly going to be a very, very high-speed affair.
Certainly will. And backing that up the Monday afterwards is the Rookie Cup, round 4, taking place at Velocitta at Brazil. Presumably my pronunciation is well off of that particular circuit, but one of the multiple fantastic inbuilt circuits that are part of this Brazilian game. And then the shuffle begins as V8s make way on Thursday night for the San Marino Grand Prix, which is been done so that the Enduros can occur on the weekends, and so that means that Formula 1 will be on Thursday next week, and that'll be on this channel again, and that's the next week ahead in Automobilista Australia land. My name is Stairs. You've been joined by myself and Nether for this round 3 action of the Automobilista Australia Super Series. Bye for now.